hospital, in the Gemelli hospital, and he told them that he was very happy for the work that they did and so forth. So I think there is some hope.
The pastor accused of raping his daughter in Matsulu, Mpumalanga, has been remanded in custody after his bail judgment was postponed to April 29. The 43-year-old pastor is alleged to have raped his 19-year-old biological daughter since she was a 15-year-old. Prosecution has told the court that they are not opposing bail since the pastor is the first offender. A community member, Kevin Mavuso, says the pastor must not be granted bail.
We feel like the justice is failing us. We feel like the court is failing us. The police officers, they did their job and they did a marvelous job. So, but what is happening right now, it seems like this guy, they want to give him a bail. But there's a case that was not reported. He is not a first-time offender. A few years back, there were accusations that he raped his brother's daughter. So we don't know what is happening. This guy does not deserve to get a bail because right now we need to relocate the victim. We don't know what to do. And we've been using money upside down. Even if they give him a bail, we don't want him to go back to work because everyone is at risk. And the worst part of this thing, he's having a daughter that is 3 years old.
Please note the following story contains graphic description which may upset sensitive listeners, including children. The rape survivor, who could not be identified, says she has taken a break from school. She narrates her alleged abuse.
He came to me and he showed me some videos of someone. She was going to university and then she asked her father to sleep with her before she had to go to university. After showing me that video, she said to me, some families do this. Their fathers sleeping with their daughters because they want to prevent from them to sleep with boys having infections and get pregnant and stuff. Their boyfriend will hurt them. And then he said, when I do this with him, I will also be safe from boys. They will hurt me.
Recapping the top story, the Border Management Authority has deployed more officials to curb the illegal activities, including smuggling of people and goods at the Beitbridge border post in Musina, Limpopo. I am Ondilambana for SAFM News Headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Elizabeth returns to lead a strong Sharks side for tomorrow's URC clash against Edinburgh in the Scottish capital. Cricket South Africa prioritising search for white ball coach and Chiefs searching for consistency in the league. More details at 3:30.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, the National Pulse, it certainly is. My name is Ashraf Garda. I can think of many things I want to talk about, but I'll leave all those things on hold until just now. Because, as we often do on the show, we reflect the issues that best drives, the pulse of the nation ASAP. And today we have the Minister of Basic Education, Sibiwe Kgarube, in studio. So we're going to spend about 20 minutes or so with her, right? As always, we won't take your calls right away, but save the numbers, 086 000 2032. But you can WhatsApp, text or voice note like right now. 0614 104 107, 0614 104 107. And of course, if you are tweeting, go ahead and do just that. Tag myself, tag SFM Radio, tag myself, Ashraf Garda. You can also tag the Minister of Education as well as DBE, Department of Basic Education. You'll certainly find it on my tweet from just now. So do all of that. And maybe there's a fundamental question to you as the audience. Of the many things that we'll talk about over the next 20 minutes, what for you is if I had to ask you to list 3 priorities that needs the most urgent attention in basic education, what would they be? So that's my question to you as members of the audience. However, we're going to get the same questions to the Minister of Basic Education as well. So good to have you with us, Minister. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Ashraf. It's really good to be here in studio with you.
Thank you. You know, we often talk about who drives the National Pulse, and let me ask you this. I mean, how many months are you into your
10
job
months.
now? Are you aware of just your role and responsibility in terms of the decisions you make and how that does impact on the pulse of the nation?
Absolutely. I think it's very important to understand the role that any national minister, particularly in education, plays, because when you look at how decision making is done in education, the provinces are the implementing agents, so to speak, but the national policy, legislation, regulations, guidelines are set at a national level. So how we go about delivering our education system is determined at a national level. The actual implementation then happens at a provincial level. So those are the concurrent functions. And so I've come to really appreciate that there's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility that lies in this space. But often I find that, of course, the ordinary South African doesn't differentiate between that. So, you know, if there's an incident in the Northwest where there were children who were being taught in a car park, for instance, people say, what is going on here? So I also find that in as much as that's my responsibility, at the end of the day, all 13.5 million learners in our system are my responsibility. And I wouldn't have it any other way, really. And yeah, it's been an interesting, crazy 10 months.
Crazy 10 months. What were your expectations when you just got appointed? Can you remember what you said at the time? You know, like my big vision and big plan.
Yeah.
What did you say?
You know, actually, it's weird. It's funny you ask me that, because now that I've just thought about it briefly, I actually just realized that I think I've remained pretty consistent with what I thought were the key priorities. I think number one, I think any South African would agree with you that improving learning outcomes in South Africa is absolutely key. But I think what has evolved over time is my understanding of what that would take, of how we would get there, of which is that's the kind of appreciation that I have now. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when I first got appointed, I was like, we've got to improve education outcomes. We've got to look at infrastructure. We've got to look at safety in schools. We've got to look at inclusive education. How do we get children with special needs into our education system? And we need to look at teacher development. So those 5 priorities have remained fairly consistent. But of course, with time, you've kind of realized that, number one, all of these other things are supporting functions to getting education outcomes right. And what does that take? Mm-hmm. And having understood that it's going to take a strategic reorientation of the education system in our country, it's literally going to take turning what we know upside down. What we know is we only check the marker of success of our education system at a matric level. We say we have 84% pass rate. This is great and it's amazing, right? However, it is my view, and that of many very learned people who aren't like me, who are experts in this field, that actually that's not the marker of success. That's just a product of a system that works. But if you are to really invest in the system, is to turn it on its head and say, how do we invest in foundational learning? How do we make sure that the most amount of teachers, the most qualified teachers, the most amount of resources go to children 0 to 4, 4 to 10?
Absolutely. So what then for you is the marker of success?
The marker of success is children being able to be cognitively developed at the right age. So by the time children get to, so first is to make sure that all 7 million South Africans children who are between the ages 0 to 4 are in some kind of early child learning center, number one. Number two, that when they get to age 6 and they're taking that grade R test to get to grade 1, that they are cognitively at the age of a 7-year-old. That when they get to grade 3 and grade 4, that they are cognitively at the age of where they should be. Because when we take the international benchmarking test, Ashraf, we realize that our children are not at that level. One statistic that has broken my heart is the statistic that we learnt at our benchmarking test last year that found that the majority of children in South Africa who are in grade 3 are cognitively only in grade 1. Now,
so grade 3s are actually in grade 1.
Yeah.
Or grade 3 is grade 1 in that sense. Yeah.
And do you know that when children get left behind in that way, they are highly unlikely to ever catch up? Because when do they catch up? Because the system goes and you move on to the next level. And that's why, and then my criticism is then we obsess about why aren't our children taking in maths and science? Why aren't our children taking difficult subjects? Well, if you don't get the foundations of learning right, then how can we expect that children can take gateway subjects like that?
So let's pay attention to that. So you're 10 months into this job. Now, you know, if you're a football coach, you probably got one season. And if you don't, and they'll give you some leeway. And by the next season, if you don't win a cup, you're gone. There's huge pressure on you, right? You're gone. So you're almost getting to end of season 1, right?
Oh, how long is the season?
Well, I mean, typically it's 10 months and then you have a 2-month break or thereabouts. So you're almost there. Right?
Okay.
So with that in mind, staying with that issue of the grade 3 effectively cognitively being grade 1, what have you done to change that?
Yeah. So as I said, firstly, I think it had to take saying we are reorientating the system firstly and in its entirety. So we look at the bursaries that DBE disperses, the Funza Lushaka bursary. So we said, look, 60% of these have to go to people who want to pursue foundational phase teaching. So we have to incentivize people to firstly become qualified grade R, grade 1 teachers. Then secondly, we have to partner with people who will help us with reading and reading for meaning. There's amazing organizations such as Funda Wande. There are organizations out there who've been doing this kind of work, but perhaps have not always had access to government to say, look, we don't have the answers. We don't have the monopoly on good ideas. But some of you have been doing this kind of research for many years. So how do we then get reading strategies in provinces to get children to read? But for me, Ashraf, the biggest game changer and my biggest priority for the next bit of the season is to make sure that we bring on board and we register 10,000 ECD centers. Once we register them, we help upskill the practitioner, we help them with their infrastructure, we give them a curriculum, and then we give them a subsidy for children to be able to have 2 meals a day and be able for you to be able to run that
And
ECD.
to confirm, that ECD center, would it be recognized as an educational institute, public, or is it private? I mean, how would it practically, what does it mean?
So currently ECD centers are run by predominantly black women who are just looking after children in the community. So what we want to do is, we're not going to turn these into mini schools, but we want to formalize them. So we want to say to Danny, who looks after children, look, let's upskill you so you can become a recognized practitioner so that you know how to do a curriculum, you know how to deliver the curriculum. Then we want to look at you, it's not just a garage at the back of your house. We want to give you a space that has, fire escapes, that has all of these things because you're housing and teaching children. Then we want to make sure that you get a subsidy so that you can feed children breakfast and lunch every single day. We want to be able for you to have mattresses, books, puzzles. So it is in our best interest for Danny to come to us to get registered.
Absolutely.
Because it is them who are at the interface of communities.
Well, I mean, look, it makes sense. If it's that important, it can't be informal. It has to be acknowledged as such. So there's an opportunity then for 10,000 ECD centers and maybe more people to get in. But a quick one on that, then we'll move on. How far down the line are you with that?
We are sitting at just over 3,000. The last when we had our ECD summit earlier in March. So we are moving at pace, and provinces are really. In fact, I was just recently in the Northwest on Monday and looking at some of the amazing work that they're doing. We're going to get this right, Ashraf.
Okay, I certainly hope so. You talked about benchmarks. So one is benchmarking at grade 1 and grade 3. What about benchmarking matric onwards? I mean, how do we then shape up as people? Because I'm very keen, and people listen to me often, I talk about building a champion nation. We have to be globally competitive. So are we?
Absolutely. So firstly, I mean, a lot of people have said, and I think, credit to my predecessor, who herself, when people were saying, surely we shouldn't be taking these international benchmarking tests because, we're one of few African countries that take them, and we will always come dead last. And as I said, credit to her for saying, look, I mean, we're not going to pull out of an international benchmarking test because we don't do well. Let us really compete with the finest of the world, the Finlands of the world, with just the top education system. So credit to her for not pulling South Africa out of that. I don't intend on doing that either. So because it also, again, it helps us understand where we are globally. Then secondly, I think if we were to get the foundations of learning right, Ashraf, then things like so some of these programs like Girls in Science or Boys in Coding, all of these things then become almost... They become almost part of the system. Then we don't have to have campaigns to promote science and maths. Then we don't have to have campaigns or have children.
Absolutely. It is
the
norm. Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about some of the biggest challenges you're facing, and we'll do that right after this.
Pressure keeps mounting, and the thirst for maximum points has drastically increased. FC Union Berlin and VfB Stuttgart are in a tense battle for victory. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on FC Union Berlin versus VfB Stuttgart on Saturday, 19 April at 6:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a Health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best and morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, continuing to chat with the Minister of Basic Education today with Siphiwe Kgaroube. She's raised many issues, I think, that are particularly important. I want to just, in the few minutes we have, I want to pick out some highlight issues. The issues of pit latrines, that's the one, and what seems to be the continuous issues of effectively, let's call them thugs at school, what's it, blackboard jungle, that's a phrase from a long time ago. How are we sorting that out?
Okay, firstly, infrastructure. Ashraf, first, I made an announcement that we're about 97% of clearing the 2018 backlog of pit latrines. I mean, this is something, for me, it's bargain basement. We have to get it right. We intend by June to have all of that entire backlog done. But I want to also just quickly to mention to your listeners that infrastructure is a forever moving target. Once we've cleared that 2018 backlog, we have to consistently make sure that we are auditing schools to make sure that inappropriate infrastructure doesn't arise. So you don't arrive at, perfect infrastructure. It's not possible. There's 24,000 schools in the country. You have to consistently make sure that you are maintaining and keeping infrastructure safe.
And does that fall within your ambit still?
Well, it falls within the provinces, but you see, there's no way in which if a child were to get harmed, I can just say ask the MEC. So while the budget falls firmly within the provinces, we have an oversight function that says, all right, you are behind with your infrastructure budget. Why are you not spending against that? Yet you are behind, yet you have all of these challenges. So we have a snapshot of the country and their spending patterns and also their infrastructure needs. So we can be able to follow up with those things. Then the issue around, criminality in schools, it's a massive problem. On the one end, it is criminality or at least crimes that are perpetuated by adults against children. So
and would that be teachers?
Yeah, sometimes it's teachers, sometimes the staff members, sometimes whoever is at the school. So firstly, the teachers are vetted by SACE, which is an organization that registers teachers. So they are vetted against the Child Protection Register and the Sexual Offenders Register. But what I've raised as an issue to the department is to say, but what about the other staff members? What about the teaching assistants? What about the security guards? What about the food handlers? We have to make sure that we have a tight loop there. But more importantly, we also have to teach children what is appropriate and inappropriate behavior from adults. Because remember, by the time the vetting is done and you convicted of a crime, you've already caused the harm. So I want us to get to a point where children become our partners in saying, no, this auntie has done this to me, or this didn't feel right to me. So we have to run that campaign. Then on the other end, we find, particularly we're talking about gangsterism, we find that schools that find themselves in communities with gangsterism find that kind of stuff playing itself in
It's
the
the norm in that environment.
Exactly, in the schools. So I am quite excited about the work that Minister Mkhunu and I are doing around the school safety plan. Because before we just had a very generic framework of how we can work with SAPS. But now we have a very direct, data-driven, by the crime stats plan, which we're going to be launching in the next couple of weeks.
I mean, it does seem like it's a very, very daunting issue. I can raise like 10 things that we need to be talking about, and I'd be battling to find out like what would be the priority. So if you mentioned the initial priority for you around entry level, and I think you've made that point already with early childhood development, right? Let's say at a higher level. At high school, for example, what is the single biggest issue that we have to get right with a sense of urgency?
Well, if we get the foundations of teaching right, then we can be able to. I'm concerned about the uptake of maths and science, in particular at a high school level, from grade 10 to grade 12s. In fact, we've seen a stagnation of the science uptake. We've seen a stagnation of the maths uptake and a decline on the science uptake. In fact, I raised this.
Which means in both cases, less people are taking those subjects.
Yeah. And Ashraf, the other problem is that sometimes you get teachers who discourage learners from taking these subjects by saying we want to up our matric results. This is why I'm saying we have to de-emphasize this big matric pass rate mark.
Well, I will applaud for
to
this.
say
So is it in your hands to de-emphasize that matric pass mark, which also means that maybe on a day in January that a show like this will have a dull day because we won't talk about matric results, meaning we don't talk about any other results in the world anyway. We don't talk about university results to that level, or even our school employer graduation every year. We just don't do that.
And so I'm saying it's a culture change that we just have to get right. That we have to give premium, attention to other things. Like, say, for instance, when we get our grade 10s, reading for meaning, that has to make a big song and dance about that.
But can you change that now? What I'm saying, is it in your hands?
Well, I can certainly start. By saying this is the direction in which we're going. We're turning this thing upside down. I started, I believe, in this beginning of this year when we gave the matric and made the announcement of the matric pass rate, where we didn't just make a big song and dance about the actual figure, but we dive deep into what are the quality of the passes, how many bachelor passes. And as this advisory committee that I'm going to be appointing will start its work, we're going to also look at the quality of the pass. What does that look like? A lot of people have raised with me to say, no, our children are passing with 30%. I've gone through a lot of pain to explain that there's no one who's passing matric with a 30% pass. But there's a point there that is being made. There's clearly an itch there. South Africans are saying, is this really of high quality? And I want experts to advise us on that.
No, very, very important. And what's the number of learners who drop out of school long before they get to even grade 10?
So our throughput, our pass rate is at about 84%. Our throughput rate which is the learners who start grade R and finish grade 12, is sitting at 63%.
Okay, which means like honestly 1/3.
Yeah.
I'm not finishing high school.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, for various reasons. It tracks with middle income countries, but where I believe we could be doing better, Ashraf, is that I need to be able to tell you where each and every one of those children has gone to. I need to be able to tell you how many have died, how many have gone to FET colleges, how many have gone to community colleges, how many have dropped out.
And you can't tell me that
At the
now.
moment, we don't have that
Okay,
data.
you have lots on your hands, I can tell you. Here's a quick question, well, a quick one. Any plans to introduce financial literacy in schools?
Look, I mean, of course, this is always a balance. And people say, look, can you introduce this? Can you introduce that? It's always a balance because CAPS already as a curriculum is very packed. And in fact, that's part of the reason why we announced matric results so late, early in the new year, because there's a lot of subjects. So, of course, and financial literacy can be introduced at an LO, life orientation level, but not necessarily as a standalone subject, because you don't want to overcrowd
But then you're
your
having,
curriculum.
again, more subjects. Here's a quick one. The principal commenting, running a school with money from his own pension, plus, I'm trying to understand it, took a loan because the department does not give us money. KZN Education is dead. He says this needs President's intervention. President should call an Imbizo in KZN to fix education. If truth be told, everybody in KZN Education is stressed. Crisis is about educators in the province. We need help. Okay, that's a very general thing. I'm not too sure you have all the details that you can comment on.
Look, I mean, I can. I mean, I appreciate the principal, and I mean, I can only imagine the kind of stress and distress that he's under. We are aware of massive financial problems in KZN, and this was something that I was made aware of last year. In fact, there was such a crisis at the end of last year that the province was going to struggle even to run internal exams. And so we are hoping that with the budget and the equitable share, that it will buffer them. But, Ashraf, there's a broader conversation that must be had, and that is the financial health of our provinces. Because of the concurrent nature of the function, we obviously don't run financials of the provinces. But we have to have an honest conversation because KZN is not the only one. I can guarantee you 2 or 3 more provinces will not be financially viable in the next 2 financial years.
We've got about a minute and a half before I let you go. Big thought from what was the Bella Bill that became the Bella Act, right, and the issues of languages. I remember, I mean, your position, you didn't attend that original signing on ceremony. And I think it was Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi who had in studio with me said, well, if I were the president, I would fire the minister on principle at that time. What do you feel about that quickly, keeping in mind that, you know, you have a part of this unique GNU, you have your view, you have your party view, and then you have what is considered the view of the president and government.
Look, I mean, the conversation around the Bella Act has now almost dissipated because this seeks to amend the South African Schools Act, and I think everybody can recognize that there's a need for a lot of the provisions that are in those amendments. In terms of whether or not, you know, that rocks the government of national unity, look, I think that in the last 10 months we've all learned that a coalition government is going to have its headwinds. And I can only hope that even with this current headwind of the impasse on the budget, that we can find one another so that we can see some stability, not only in my sector, but also in government.
And you will be the minister for the rest of the year, right?
I'm hoping so.
I'm just checking because, you know,
I'm hoping so. I have a lot of work to do.
All right. Who knows what happens? So here's one comment quickly. Most articulate minister to be interviewed never deviates. Education is in good hands. And that comes from Sagi in Durban. Here's the last thing. If we had a chat a year from now, what's the one thing you'd love to be telling me?
I would love to tell you that we've improved the number of children in this country who can read for meaning at a foundation phase, and that all schools in South Africa, all 24,000 of them, have a grade R plus because we're not there yet. Okay.
And I'll end with this saying you were part of a group of the WEF Young Global Leaders, 130 odd under 40, you were named. In one soundbite, what is being recognized effectively as a global under 40 leader mean to you and to the people, to the country that you represent?
It's pretty cool, I won't lie. But for me, one of the things I want to do is to really try and leverage those global contacts and global platforms to try and push some of these things that I'm talking about. Okay. The reality is that we can't do it as government alone.
See, now you speak my language. I often say, how do you align your personal success to the national success?
That's
You've done
right.
just that. There we are. The Minister of Basic Education. She's getting the basics right. And if she does get the basics right, perhaps we may just have a far better country in 5 years from now. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the lawyer of the National Deputy Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya has argued before the Free State High Court that self-proclaimed whistleblower Patricia Morgan Mashale has no credible evidence to back up her accusations of corruption against Sibiya. The Border Management Authority has deployed more officials to curb the illegal activities, including smuggling of people and goods at the Beitbridge border post in Musina, Limpopo. And the Chinese President Xi Jinping is in Cambodia on the last leg of his tour of the Southeast Asia, during which he is trying to boost support in the face of U.S. tariffs. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 eastbound in Eldorado Park has delays at Golden Highway exit. The M1 southbound in Houghton Estate queuing towards Houghton Drive exit. In Bedfordview, the N3 northbound queuing on the ramp to the N12 eastbound at Gululis Interchange. And the N12 R24 westbound queuing on both routes towards Gululis Interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing between Key Ridge and Cliffdale. The N3 southbound in Howick has a truck crash between Maryvale and Sadara. The N3 eastbound has a stationary truck before Ashburton, and the M7 westbound a stationary truck at Bel Air Wakesley Road Junction. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 northbound is queuing towards the N1 Koeberg interchange. The N1 inbound is slow moving on the N7 highway ramp, and Main Road slow moving through Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, after the minister, you're the Minister of Sport, right? From education to sport. You're going to start with rugby. Yeah?
Yes, I am. A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, the Sharks have been boosted by the return of Eben Itzebeth, who will lead the side for tomorrow's URC clash against Edinburgh in the Scottish capital. It was already confirmed this week that Itzebeth is back in the mix after he was named in the squads that are on a URC tour, but being back on the team sheet is definitely a great boost for the side. Lukhanyo Am also joins Itzebeth in the starting team, along with possible future RWC winner and current Bok first choice fullback Apalele Fassi. Meanwhile, Lions assistant coach Berend Petersen says that the team remains optimistic about turning their season around as they prepare to host Benetton in a must-win United Rugby Championship clash at Ellis Park Stadium this weekend. Currently sitting 14th on the log, the Lions playoff hopes hang on by a thread. A loss to the Italian visitors would all but be the end of their chances, with just 3 pool matches remaining.
In a perfect world, we wouldn't want to be where we are now, but I mean, I really think, and I think all the coaches, all the players, we really still believe that we can make it. And I think here and there, you probably hoping for 1 or 2 other results going your way as well. But I think last year at this time I was on the media as well, and we can only take it game for game. If we get bonus points in every game, great. If we win all the games and we have to, that's not going to be ideal. Now we have to wait for other results. But in our minds, we can 100% still make it if we just do what we need to do.
In football, the Premiership makes a return this weekend with the heat still on at both ends of the table. A great deal still hangs in the balance. Richards Bay FC are set to welcome Cape Town City at the Kings Welithini Stadium in Umlazi tonight in what will be a potential tiebreaker in terms of that relegation scrap. Meanwhile, Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns have their focus fully on continental football. Both teams are currently on 24 points each, and any result that comes out of their clash will have direct implication in their position in the league. Then Kaizer Chiefs return to action on Saturday away to Chippa United in the Betway Premiership, where Wandile Duba will again be expected to have an impact. But coach Nazruddin Nabi did raise concerns about injuries, with several key players carrying knocks in the victory over Sundowns.
Maybe before the game we don't discuss about injury players, but maybe now it's the time to say that before this game we lost Miguel. Then we was unlucky between Dove and Zita. All of them, they get injury also. Let me say, Dove, he played today with injury. Zita also, he was in the bench with injury. For that, we try to... Eden is with us, he makes session with us, he train with us. But only when we... last 2 weeks, but only when they play DDC game, he want to play with them. Also Tabosele, he get injury. I think all of them, they played with injury.
Elsewhere, Liverpool captain Virgil van Dijk signed a new 2-year contract with the club, ending months of speculation over his future. Just a week after Mo Salah extended his stay, the 33-year-old has made 314 appearances for Liverpool, scoring 27 goals. In Cricket South Africa Director of Cricket Enoch Ngwe says that they're working around the clock to find a replacement for the Proteas white ball coach following Rob Walters' departure. Now, Walters stepped down as head coach of the One-Day International and T20 sides last month following the team's failure to reach the ICC Champions Trophy final. Now, Ngwe has stressed the importance of filling the vacancy in the build-up to the 2027 ICC Cricket World Cup in South Africa.
Yeah, it is something that we're pushing very fast behind the scenes. We want to secure that position as soon as possible. So we're hoping that by end of the month, we will be in a stronger position, to be able to come up with, obviously, the news, the plan over the next sort of 30 months to Cricket World Cup in terms of that particular position. Because from our side, it is a critical position that, there's quite a few things that obviously are hanging at the moment, but we need to make sure that while we're focusing on the road to the WTC, we need to secure this one as soon as possible so that we can put all the plans together and finalize and allow whoever is going to be the coach, to bring in their ideas as well into the port, and then we see how we can actually take it from here to 2027. So we want to close it as soon as possible.
And finally, in tennis, Serena Williams says that she would have been banned for 20 years had some of her Grand Slam titles taken away if she had committed the same anti-doping offense as men's world number one Yannick Sinner. Now, Sinner is currently serving a 3-month doping ban after reaching a settlement with the World Anti-Doping Agency over 2 positive drug tests last year. If you remember, back in 2018, Williams had said that she felt that she was victim of discrimination over the volume of drug tests that she was required to carry out. And the 23 Grand Slam champion also expressed sympathy for former rival Maria Sharapova. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, perfect.
What is your money doing right now? Is it lazing around in that other account because you're not sure where to move it for premium growth? Well, let's make it work hard in a Standard Bank Money Market Select investment account, where we'll grow it with a nominal interest of up to 7.9% on a minimum deposit of 100,000 Rand. Plus, you get access to your funds anytime. Open yours online or on our app today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Blue Diamonds want to shine all the way from kickoff to the final whistle, while the Rockets plan to rock up with a strong winning mentality. This is the Hollywoodbet Super League. Experience the exciting battle between JVWFC and TS Galaxy Queens on Sunday 20 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
All right, what we'll do, we should be chatting in a few minutes' time around the ongoing issues of taxi violence and news that a taxi leader has been effectively shot and killed, right? So we'll talk about that just now. But time for us to take your calls on some of the issues that we've just touched on with the Minister of Basic Education. First up, Churchill in Umtata. Go for it, Churchill. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, go for it, Churchill.
Ashraf,
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, my brother. Let me start by commending the Minister for doing an excellent job in the short space of time that she's been there. But I've got some concerns, Ashraf. I don't know how long they are going to be in that GNU, but we wish that they could stay on. Because I've been blaming the previous administration of the ANC that they slept on their laurels. The unemployment amongst the youth is skyrocketing. We've already hit the wall. I don't know when they are going to revisit our curriculum because we keep on producing academics. Recently, there was a strike by doctors, and we don't know where we're going. Now, our main concern is that if we could start at lower levels to say we push these kids towards bricklaying, artisans, and so on and so on. Because if we keep on in this trajectory, we're going to have a crisis.
So, okay, your bottom line, are you saying now, based upon what you know about this minister, that you actually hope that she does stay on and that her position and her role could be unraveled if, for example, the GNU is unraveled, yeah?
Yes, if they could stay on, but I want them to talk to their partners in the GNU to say, look, they need to revisit their curriculum because we can't keep on in this trajectory of producing academics. And we're producing academics, and the youth is not being employed. That's the crisis that we're having.
Yeah. Okay,
You know,
point
it's
taken.
It's a ticking time bomb.
Point taken, well made. I mean, I wish we had 2 hours talking to the minister. We could never get into detail about many of the issues, but I think that is another issue about just really looking at the actual curriculum. But for now, I think it's a valid big question. So what happens if the GNU collapses? And we don't know. What would happen, for example, to the Minister of Basic Education, isn't it?
Ashraf, I'm listening to the minister. I just want to say, so far, this is the best minister that we've ever had. The way she articulates, the way she's so informative, the way she understands her department. I mean, she just joined, but the way she is confident, the way she can explain and answer each and every of your questions. I just hope that we can have so many ministers of her caliber. So far, she's the best.
Well, there you are. So, and I think the point that's valid there is it doesn't matter then which political party you belong to, does it? Or are you obsessed with the minister coming from the party that you support?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. With regards to the conversation you just had with Minister Siviwe Kgarube, I'm of the opinion that she knows the job, and she, like you mentioned, Ashraf, she's 10 months in the job, and in my honest opinion, I feel like she knows what she's doing, and we just have to see the results day after, But I honestly am of the opinion that she knows what she's doing, and I believe she might just do a good job. And this was Cyril's best pick so far, if I can just be honest in my own way. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Okay, there we are. Cyril's best pick. When it comes to American football, they have a first draft pick, right? Where you have a chance to pick out from what's available, the first choice. Is that Cyril's best pick? I wonder.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Okay, wait. I think that's the one we just played. Here's another comment. Let's see.
Ashraf, a breath of fresh air. This is what we need. Young, vibrant, excited about work people who don't sleep in parliament. We need more of this in our departments.
Staff members, whoever is.
Well, thanks for raising that. It's an interesting amount of feedback we get from this. And the only thing I can add is, do you notice how people are not discussing her ideological bent? Because we know she comes from a party that many people on listening in would support, and many would disagree with completely, right? And yet, when it comes to delivery, it's like, hey, man, if a person can deliver, you're going to get our thumbs up.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Mcete here in Tsala. Ashraf, we've already noticed an influx of transport in our route. This is one of the busy and congested time of the year. People are traveling to various directions. As this is a moment where many good and misunderstanding happens in our routes and destination, we pray and urge people to be benevolent to each other. Please, peace, kindness, and friendliness is all it takes. That's all I want to say, to ask people. Thanks, Ashraf Mcete here in Tsala.
Well, thank you for that. Just one last one I'll play for now.
Hi, Ashraf. Ask the Minister Kgarube. Her former ministers came up with a system called outcome-based education, which has led South Africa where it is now. Then ask her, what do we call her system? because the previous one was called outcome-based education and what is called her system right now. Thank you very much, Fireman from Limpopo.
Okay. I think that outcomes-based was maybe even set up by Minister Kader Asmal. I hope I've got that right. That's a long, long time ago. And many say that sort of loose arrangement, perhaps we need to get an education specialist to talk about the different education systems that we followed in the 30-odd years plus of democracy. Right, let's get to the Western Cape and the issues of taxi wars after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I tell you what's so sad. I mean, we're chatting today about the shooting of the Provincial Executive Committee member of Santaco, that's Mongi Titi, who was shot at the Nyanga taxi rank last night. And of course, it's terrible to once again talk about a shooting or a loss of life. But the reality is, I can copy and paste this introduction and this interview for the last 10 years, and I would sense that we're saying the same things. So it is in that context, let's then chat about it further with Mandla Hermanus, who's the provincial chairperson of Santaco. In fact, sorry, we've got a change of guest. Let's get to the Santaco Western Cape spokesperson, and that's Mako Sandile Tumana. Mako Sandile, appreciate your time, and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good day, sir, to you and your listeners.
Thank you. I'm really so sad about the shooting. But as you've heard in my intro, this is like a copy and paste every few months, isn't it?
Yeah, my brother, it is always devastating to report all this kind of incident, the assassination of the members, in our industry. It is very sad.
I see you are calling it an assassination. How sure are you that is what happened, that that's the motive?
We really don't know. I spoke with my chairperson earlier on this morning regarding what is occurred in Nyanga rank last night, and we were also talking about what is the reason behind this, and we all don't know because there is no conflict between the roots or roots invasion whatsoever. We are so calm and quiet in our area in Cape Town. But all these kind of incidents are always happening. So we're always wondering what is the motive behind it. How could we stop this,
Well, I mean, would you know who's done it? Because if we're talking about an assassination and we're talking about taxi wars, then are we talking about, rival taxi companies? So would you know who's done this?
No, not at all at the moment. That is why we are also appealing to the law enforcement agencies to do a major investigation regarding what occurred in Nyanga.
Okay. Give us then a broader sense. I mean, okay, let the investigation, take its course, right? Give us a broader sense of the terrain of the taxi industry, say in the Western Cape. Do you get a sense that different taxi operators are literally fighting for turf and they don't want anyone to be on the same turf because, that's theirs? I mean, is that true, and how do we stop that?
No, I don't think, currently we are all confused what is exactly happening, why we are losing members like this way, because of, to be honest with you, there is no tension among the members, there is no conflict whereby we can be able to stop, to talk if ever there is conflict between the route of Cape Town or any route among us. Currently, it's quiet. There is no infighting, but we are losing our people. We don't know what is the reason behind this thing.
All right, so very, very quickly then, if you don't know what the reasons are for this, and there's been many other shootings and assassinations in other regions also before, right? Then what needs to happen next? I mean, what do you need to be doing besides the police?
As Santaco, we always condemning this kind of killings and appealing to our members. If ever, guys, there is any issue that we need to resolve, let's come on board and resolve the problem if there is any problem. We are really, really in dark as Santaco in the province, but we see that we are losing our member. Titi was one of committed member doing everything in his power to ensure that
there is a peace and harmony in Cape Town.
That's where we leave it. Appreciate your time. That's Marco Sandile Chumana. Well, there you are. If they're saying peace, clearly people are not listening, isn't it? And therefore we have these taxi violence.
Pressure keeps mounting and the thirst for maximum points has drastically increased. FC Union Berlin and VfB Stuttgart are in a tense battle for victory. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on FC Union Berlin versus VfB Stuttgart on Saturday, 19 April at 6:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, so let's get to further comments from you. And, again, whether you're from the Western Cape and you want to pick up the issue of taxi violence, or whether you wish to touch on the broader issue with the Minister of Basic Education, the conversation that we had, raising a lot of issues in a very tight format. I understand that. Feel free to bring it up, because I think she's also looking for solutions as to what would mean success for all of us. And she's suggesting already matric results cannot be a measure of success. So let's hear from you. You move the National Pulse.
Hey, good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Andile here. Ashraf, you see, I can't be excited about a person speaking English. So we need a person who will be actually speaking sense and coming up with solutions or lasting solutions that can actually change the education system in our country, not the English that the minister is actually fluent or eloquent in English. So that's not what we want. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so what did you expect her to say? I mean, seriously.
Hi, Ashraf and SFM listeners. It's Unati here. I understand and, commend the minister in her way of understanding the department while she's new there. But we all know that the DA has always been working on a program where they do shadow ministering. That's why she would be, very knowledgeable. And that's what the ANC had promised us, that whilst they were in exile, they were shadow ministering the government departments. But it doesn't look like that.
Well, I must tell you, whatever you may think ideologically about or philosophically about the DA, the principle of shadow ministering in this case here makes complete sense. So they've always had shadow ministers. So yeah, that means you literally are modeling yourself into a job when that opportunity comes up. Why don't we all do it? Certainly makes sense to me.
Hi, Ashraf. Ask the Minister Harube. Her former ministers came up with a system called outcome-based education, which has led South Africa where it is now.
All right, wait. For some reason, we deleted that, and I'm not too sure why it's playing again. But yeah, that we touched on already. OBE. Here's another one. Couldn't get to this one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm Bafana Kumalo in Memel. I'm saying sports must be made compulsory in schools, and all schools must have good sports facilities. Schools must procure directly from wholesalers to cater for feeding and employ our children who have qualifications in procurement. I think that will assist. Thank you very much.
Well, I think you're right that it can't just be sport. It must be organized. It must be top-notch sport. I think there's one lesson to learn from, and I know these things come at a cost, right? But there's a lesson to learn from rugby. Why are our rugby teams so good that they can compete worldwide and win the World Cup? If you look at their school rugby structures and then look at their university school structures and then compare that to cricket and soccer and anything else, and you tell me who comes close to that.
Good afternoon, Asra. Good afternoon, listeners. This is Patrick from Soweto. Asra, can you ask the minister there why they appoint people who doesn't have qualifications, particularly in the ABET schools? They appoint people who doesn't have qualification. It's only matric. Some they don't have this ABET certificate. Can ask the minister why did you appoint such a people, and why she does not revisit to those ABET schools? Thank you, Patrick in Soweto.
Okay, of course she's gone, right? You know that. I mean, it's difficult, I think, in the few minutes for her to say this is what I've done. Just keeping in mind, I'm not here to defend her position. If you're 10 months into a job, a lot of that early part is factors around policy and implementation at a macro level, isn't it?
After Ashraf, please ask the minister how long does she think she's going to take to eradicate the indignity of the ANC speed latrine toilets at schools. Thank you, Ashraf.
I think you heard the point earlier. What did you say? Like 30-40%? That's where we are. There's a long way to go, and it needs money, and it needs national money. Does it need a VAT increase? No, we don't want that. Not at all, do we?
Ma'am Kharube, may you please assist us as to how to address this problem? Almost all public schools have got overcrowded classes. A teacher gets into class and faces almost 90 children at a go. It's no longer a class, but a mass meeting. Is there any plan? Is there any strategy that we can use in order to reduce the number of learners, especially because the number of teachers is very low? What can we do? I didn't agree.
Okay, I mean, she's gone. Simple answer. You need money to be able to have more classrooms, and the way to have money, you have to fuel our economy. So that's why there's such a focus on economic growth when we speak to so many people. We have got to get that right.
Ashraf, thank you so much for having Siviwe Gwarube on your show today. She indeed is a breath of fresh air. I've been in education myself for the past 34 years. At different levels, from high school to at university now. She really gives so much confidence. Theo Pengo, Centurion.
So much confidence, and educationists would perhaps appreciate that more than anybody else, isn't it? Right? Okay, let me tell you what. I mean, first of all, I think really a big thanks to Keys and Temba as the production team that put this all together to ensure that we actually can get the minister here in the first place, and hopefully we'll get a lot more. She was telling me off air, in fact, that what would be ideal is to be able to have a monthly meeting with the media, not at a press conference like this. So going to different radio, TV stations once a month. Now, that's a wish list. Practically, can that happen? Is another story, but it perhaps shows you where the minister's heart is in terms of saying that all of us collectively, we the constituency that she has to address regularly. So think about that. Let's get the news. Here's on Dela Mbana. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. 5 dying in a car accident in Mpumalanga, and BMA deploys extra officials to the Beitbridge border. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. 5 people have lost their lives following a head-on collision involving a light delivery vehicle and a sport utility vehicle on the N4 toll road between Belfast and Machado Dorp in Mpumalanga this afternoon. The provincial spokesperson for Community Safety, Security and Liaison, Mwedi Musi, says 3 other people were seriously injured. Musi says members of the emergency services are already at the scene.
It is believed that the inclemental weather may have caused this accident. Motorists traveling towards that direction are advised to consider using alternative road, because at this stage the road is still closed. We do not have an idea how long it's going to be closed.
The lawyer of the National Deputy Police Commissioner, Shadrack Sibiya, has argued before the Free State High Court that self-proclaimed whistleblower Patricia Morgan Mashale has no credible evidence to back up her accusations of corruption against Sibiya. Morgan Mashale is facing a lawsuit after posting on social media alleging that Sibiya interfered with the crime scene in Senzo Meyiwa's murder case and received bribes from mining mogul Louis Liebenberg. Sibiya's lawyer, advocate Camille Pramid, says Morgan Mashale uses social media to gain whistleblower financial support, more social media followers, and attention from news outlets. Pramid argued that Morgan Mashale failed to report any wrongdoing to relevant authorities. Instead, she acted as a police chief.
Give me a statement that is made in the answering affidavit that he'll be called as a witness at some point. But with all due respect, my lord, that's absolute nonsense. We're in motion proceedings. And in motion proceedings, you have to attach the evidence to the affidavit. So there's no escape valve that you can trigger.
The Border Management Authority has deployed more officials to curb the illegal activities, including smuggling of people and goods at the Beitbridge border post in Musina, Limpopo. The port of entry processes high number of travellers during the Easter weekend. BMA Deputy Assistant Commissioner Rudzani Mpilo says they are working together with different stakeholders, including SANDF, SAPS and Traffic Department.
We've also deployed a high number of staff, brought other additional staff, even those that are from head office, just to enhance the capacity that we have in here, immigration practitioners, health, agriculture, just to ensure that we are able to execute all our mandate, including that of our special functions. We have also deployed, additional ICT staff just to make sure that our systems remain breathing. If there's any other technical issues, technicians will be able to step in and address. We've also procured the infrastructure, including the temporary fencings, just to segregate the movement inside the port.
Mpilo further says that they have also deployed high-technology drones to monitor the activities in and around the port of entry.
We've procured drones and body-worn cameras, which will enhance the resources that we have on the ground. So the drones that are deployed here are high-tech drones that can fly a longer distance and also able to view additional distance by the cameras from where they would have reached as the last point of flying.
The taxi industry in the Eastern Cape has called on their drivers to exercise extra caution when ferrying passengers to various destinations across the province. Parts of the province have been experiencing wet weather conditions. Various associations have been conducting tests to check the conditions of vehicles for safety, particularly those who will be driving long distances. The public relations officer for the East London and Mdantsane Texas, Willie Leblai, says he's hoping for an incident-free Easter weekend.
We checked tires, the fitness of the vehicle, everything, wipers, they're up to date. So everything, our taxis are up to standard, ferry traffic to any destination from today onwards.
The Chinese President Xi Jinping is in Cambodia on the last leg of his tour of Southeast Asia, during which he's trying to boost support in the face of U.S. tariffs. He has again called for trade protectionism to be resisted. Xi has already held talks in Vietnam and Malaysia. The BBC's Laura Bicker has the details.
Each of these countries throughout Southeast Asia will have to now do their own deal with Washington to avoid tariffs. What there might be concern here in Beijing is that when they do that deal, Donald Trump might issue conditions that they cut some or all of their trade ties with China. Around a quarter of all of China's exports go through a second country. So you can see the implications if China was to lose that market and that base.
Recapping the top story, 5 people have lost their lives following a head-on collision involving a light delivery vehicle and a sport utility vehicle on the N4 toll road between Belfast and Machado Dorp in Mpumalanga this afternoon. I am Ondelambana for SAFM News Headlines at 4:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Royal AM head to court to fight for PSL status. Further Dissent reflects on Protea's future following latest CSA contract. And PGA Tour suspends Brian for participating in rival live-backed event. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, the M1 southbound in Parktown, slow moving towards Houghton Drive exit, and the N3 southbound in Heidelberg has a truck crash before Villiers. The road is closed and traffic is being diverted at Dasville Interchange. In KZN, the M7 westbound has a stationary truck at Bel Air Wakesley Road Junction, the M4 northbound in Mhlanga, queuing towards Sabaya Drive traffic circle, and the N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a stationary truck after Market Road. In Mpumalanga on the N4, crash between Bergendal Monument and Dalmatua in Cape Town. The R300 southbound has a crash near Old Paarl Road. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and Voortrekker Road is slow moving at the N7 Jakes Harville Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
Road crashes cause injuries and death. So when using the roads this Easter holiday, take your safety seriously and the safety of others. Fatigue is a silent killer. If you're on the long road, take a break every 2 hours or every 200 kilometers. Remember, buckle up and stay within the speed limit. Don't overtake on a barrier line. Travel during the day, it's safer. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. Ensure that you and your loved ones arrive alive. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Toffees want to convert pressure to pleasure by claiming maximum points against the reigning champions.
To put Everton level, he certainly does. No mistake. Beautifully done by Iliman Ndiaye.
But the citizens are not interested in any outcome but victory.
And there's Grealish, and inside 2 minutes, City are in front. And Jack Grealish, his first Premier League.
This is the Premier League. Witness the mouth-watering clash between Everton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 19 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Anything you want to pick up on the conversation with the Minister of Basic Education that we had earlier on, feel free to do so. You know, I know many people asked questions. We couldn't get to, obviously, her answering those questions. There's just not enough time. That's one. I mean, as we talk now here, there's a school transport driver who's been shot and killed in the Sophiatown region. That's very close to Westdean, west of Johannesburg. And that's like an ongoing story, isn't it? Right? Right. Anyway, if you have any thoughts, do that. The other one is that issue of taxi violence that we've explained in the Western Cape. That also is an ongoing story. And I just wonder, seriously, with regard to the taxi issues, what is the solution there? In the meantime, let's get to the Eastern Cape now, with in Gqeberha specifically. The Minister of Employment and Labour, Noma Nkosazana Matt, led a multidisciplinary inspection team comprised mainly of Department of Employment and Labour inspectors, the Department of Home Affairs, and the Eastern Cape Liquor Board. And why did they do so? Well, part of a workplace inspection at the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. This joint blitz commenced from the 7th to the 15th of April, so it's been ongoing and just about ending now, formed part of the build-up activities to President Ramaphosa's oversight visit to Gqeberha, right? Let's understand what actually happened and how will this impact that region. With me is Thobeka Makai, who's the Minister of Employment and Labour spokesperson. Tobeka, I appreciate your time. You live on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all the listeners. Thank you for having us again on the show.
Thank you. When you speak about this multidisciplinary inspection team, I mean, what would be the bottom line out of this? What would you hope to have achieved?
All right. So the bottom line really is that we had the build-up activities, the campaign that we've been running from the 7th of April, ahead of the President's visit to the Eastern Cape, Gqeberha. And we do this, Ashraf, to support national departments, provincial departments as well, whenever there are activities. So we needed then to look and see what is it that we can do to provide support to the Presidency's program. We did the joint inspections, as you've mentioned, with the Department of Home Affairs, with Liquor Board. We also, parallel to that, ran services, providing the communities in Gqeberha with services of the department, including other departments such as social development, SASSA, and business stakeholders as well.
And tell us more about the inspection visit. I mean, what did you discover? What was uncovered?
All right, so the inspections, we covered the what we call high-risk sectors. That would be the hospitality, agriculture, wholesale, and retail in and around Gqeberha areas. And our team, they found non-compliance in various areas, in all the labor laws, in fact, that were contravened, as well as the Immigration Act. So we found non-compliance with the basic conditions of employment, the COIDA, Unemployment Insurance Fund. So we found that companies or employers are not paying and they're not submitting unemployment insurance on behalf of their employees. We've also found that there is also non-compliance in terms of they don't have a first aid. For instance, there's no one who does first aid, and there isn't even a first aid kit in the business, So about 125 contravention notices were issued, as well as 300 compliance orders that were issued. So they are required to correct in terms of the orders within a stipulated time frame.
Okay, and what is your understanding about why they did not comply? Is it simply a case of like it was not important to them, or they knew that they would nobody would police them, or what?
Ashraf, we can't even tell you why companies or employers would not comply, especially with, issues such as first aid. I mean, that is sort of like standard and very important in any business to ensure that you've got like first aid. It's in case of any emergency, what is the plan? What would you do? But I think sometimes we do see that it might be some form of ignorance, because they do know that we do provide support as well to them in terms of what they need to do to be compliant. They do know that, for instance, you should not employ undocumented foreign nationals at the expense even of South Africans who could be filling those positions.
So what happened?
But because also they want...
Yeah, carry on. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I'm saying that there are various reasons, perhaps, that they wouldn't comply. But I think the minister was very disappointed because the level of compliance that we found in Gqeberha, particularly, especially the big establishments that we all love and have visited before that are non-compliant, and we only found a compliance rate of 23%. Which is very, very disappointing.
Yeah, wow. So what happens next? What happens to these businesses right now?
So what happens now is that we have given them, we have issued the contravention notices. About 125 contravention notices were issued, as well as the compliance orders. So what happens now is that they need to then, will be coming back within 14 days to check that what we have said they need to, for example, if there isn't a first aid and we haven't appointed someone to be a first aider, we will be checking then in 14 days to ensure that you have appointed somebody. What we also found is that some of the employees don't have contracts, for instance. So how do you know who works at your establishment if you don't have contracts for them? And clearly, you are not paying UIF, you are not paying compensation fund for them as well. So all these matters that we have found to be unlawful, they need to be corrected within the stipulated time frame, which is 14 days. When we come back, we want to ensure we will then be checking that there are contracts for the employees and that there are pay slips for them as well.
Okay.
And
What type of businesses are we talking about? I mean, give us the nature, because, when we think business, one can think about a multinational business. That's also a business. And we can think about a small, spaza shop. That's also a business. What, typically these type of businesses, what do they look like?
Well, typically these types of businesses are like medium and large type of enterprises. I'm not going to mention names, Ashraf, to protect, because they are working on the contraventions that we have imposed on them. But if you can think of Gqeberha, and you can think of like the beachfront and some of those establishments that you might find there, those are some of the big businesses that we're talking about. We're talking about employers that employ a lot of people. In the hospitality sector, in the wholesale and retail sector.
Okay. Well, I hear you. So you've given them like a 2-week deadline to get their act in order. What's the worst case scenario that can happen for them? They don't comply, and then what?
Well, non-compliance is taken further. So they can then be referred to a court for them to then answer at a magistrate as to why they're not complying. So hopefully things don't have to go that far. Remember, the department, our role as well, as part of the work we do, is advocacy. So we're not trying to catch companies out. We're trying to actually provide support to them. And we're saying to them, listen, we are here to provide you with the necessary information. We are here to help you to be compliant. So it's in the best interest of both employers and employees that they are compliant and they know their responsibilities. And the department is there to provide support to all businesses. If they ever feel like they are not sure of their status of compliance, they can always reach out to us and we'll gladly assist. The inspectors don't just waive, but they assist with making sure
more
that
like
the
a white
companies
peace
are
flag as
compliant.
opposed to a red flag. Got that, Tobeka
Yes.
Makai. Thank you for your time. Well, let's hope they now do adhere, and I think this is an important oversight visit, really, to these to the region of the Eastern Cape, the Gqeberha region. Tobeka Makai is the Ministry of Employment and Labour spokesperson. Thanks for that. Let's get your thoughts on. You want to pick up on that? I'm very interested to know if you have a business and you're listening to this conversation about non-compliance, about a whole lot of things like UIF and even a medical kit, and there's no actual contract with the person that's worked for you. Is this you? I mean, are we talking about your business, or are we talking about another business that you know about, or are we talking about your boss? In either way, I'd love to know, and let's see what can we learn from all of this, right? Now, how do you contact us? Call in 0614 104 107. That's via WhatsApp, text or voice note, and then live calls 086 000 2032. Many people are tweeting, and great that you do that. Tag SFM Radio and myself. Use the hashtag The National Pulse when you add your comments. And perhaps a big question for you, thinking about it right now, based upon some of the issues we've spoken about now. What's the biggest issues today that moves the National Pulse?
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Football intelligence will be tested between the students, University of Johannesburg and Tshwane University of Technology. They are both eager to go an extra mile for victory. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Varsity Derby, UJ Ladies versus TUT Ladies on Sunday 20 April at 11:30 a.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Spar Rewards brings you 5 days of even more now on with up to 50% off. Get 2-liter Brooks Oros, buy any two for 70 Rand and save 26 Rand. For 400-gram Lucky Star Pilchards, buy any two for 45 Rand and save 11 Rand. Prices valid from 17 to 21 April while stocks last. Spar Rewards. Sign up for more.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, let's then follow up on a developing story. The young woman, or women in this case, who gave testimonies in the case of the leader of the Jesus Dominion International. I'm referring to Reverend Timothy Omotoso. Well, these women addressed the media earlier today in Braamfontein. 3 of the country's Chapter 9 institutions announced that they'll launch an inquiry into the outcome of the Omotoso tribe. Effectively not happy with the outcome, right? So we picked up some clips from the briefing that I think you need to hear. Firstly, the CRL Rights Commission chairperson, who's Toko Makwanazi Aluva, spoke about the threats and everything they faced during this the trial of Omotoso.
We faced battles in the past, threats and what have you. We laid criminal charges at some point when the threats became untenable. Went to court and the person was found guilty, sentenced to 3.5 years, just to prove that it's not a fantasy in my head that I'm getting threats. So someone had to go to jail for threats. We were getting threats, some of them, most of them anonymous, but one made a mistake of not being anonymous and became confident. So the threats will always be there. We need to protect people even from Omotoso's church. They need to be protected themselves. As this young warrior said, that those people from that church should thank them that they've kept Omotoso away for 8 years. He could have been fooling around with their own children. They could be outside singing now, but if he was not in jail, he could have been harming their own children. So we're not going to be pussyfooting around the issue of there's chaos in Christianity caused by a minimum number of religious leaders.
Okay, then, this furthermore, the chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission then made the point, well, effectively commented about the prosecutor's handling of the case.
We never thought that the prosecutors could be part of the problem. We thought the problem could be cross-examined as a witness and you have, you fall apart or you change your story or whatever. That did not happen. And the judgment is very clear about that the problem was not the witnesses. They told their story, they told their truth, and they defended their truth. We know the problem was with the prosecutors, but as a complainant, what control do you have over that? You need to just trust that the system will protect you. But we're sitting here today knowing that the system didn't protect them. I've said this before, that if you think this country has a witness protection program, well, sitting here, I know it doesn't work. I'm sure Cheryl can tell you we ended up with the public protector trying to intervene to make the system work.
And, we often talk on the show about the human story. How does it affect people? In this case, one of the victims talks about the threats that they endured from the church members.
Not only have we been threatened, but we've also been, because like everybody knows the behavior of the people of the church. They would do anything, they would do just about anything to make sure that they protect or they get favor from the church leader. Some of us have received threats. Some of us have been, because they've been having their own dealing about our lives, personal lives, or anything that could actually embarrass us. We've been backlashed and we've been bashed at on social media. There's a lot of shameful things that they would do to make sure that they cover the sins of their pastor. I know all of them know, most of them know that the kind of the man that man is, but they would do anything to make sure that he looks like a saint that they are painting him out to be. So there have been threats, there have been, especially mostly from the congregants of the church, from all the branches, different branches, because we are from different branches. Our social media accounts, they've been posting things about us, and we know that more is going to come. We know that after this, we're still going to receive a lot. So yes, it hasn't been easy, and we know it's still not going to be easy, but we are standing by our word.
And therefore that call of we want justice, or we still want justice. Let's get the thoughts of, let's get your thoughts. We go to KZN in Tlantla. Go for it. Hello.
Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah.
Thank you for taking my call. You see, Ashraf, the minister must also come up with the measures of how are they going to make sure that she doesn't get to come down into the labor inspectors and do the job for them, while Section 63 of Umlomnikwitsi give the inspector the rights to tell the inspector to go and monitor and enforce compliance if it's or on the companies. And what were the measures she had taken to ensure that those labor inspectors were supposed to do the job that she had came and did it for herself? What is she going to do? Consequence management for failure to enforce compliance.
Well, consequence management came up yesterday. Look, I think as you can gather, a lot of what we spoke about today with the minister had to be on a macro level. I think for the purposes of the 20 minutes or so that we had. In fact, the plan was 15 minutes, and she very kindly said, "Okay, let's take another 5 minutes." That's what we had. But I hear you, and perhaps I think what we need to do is to sort of create a scorecard of service delivery, and this is just one of them, across the length and breadth of the nation. Is there a scorecard of that sort? Just think about it. Okay, let's get to some of your voice notes. I can play one just before we get to... we haven't heard of Trump for a while. Here's one.
Ashraf, how's it, man? Sean here from Centurion. I've been following Donald Trump and his antics for the past couple of weeks. And, it seems like the world is scared to stop doing business with America because they might flounder. But if history has shown us anything, is that if humankind wants to adapt, it can. And he's got to be careful that the rest of the world doesn't stand up and wake up and realize, but wait a moment, let's all just start doing business with each other and stop doing business with America. Because then he's going to be screwed. Anyway, thanks for a great show.
Well, in fact, thank you for the feedback. Much appreciate the great show, but and I think the entire team will be thrilled at that. But I think maybe the point is this, that, and you're right, that if in his efforts to diss the other nations in terms of his potential multilateral trade and raising of tariffs, etc., there could well be a situation where he forces himself out of being an attractive nation to do business with. And I think that is what's playing out internally in the USA right now. It is, isn't it? Here's Ondela with the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC Kidibone Diale-Tlabela has raised concerns over the rising number of taxi-related shootings and the lack of arrests. 5 people have lost their lives following a head-on collision involving a light delivery vehicle and a sport utility vehicle on the N4 toll road between Belfast and Machado Dorp in Mpumalanga this afternoon. And South Korean police have recommended that about 100 people be charged for selling and receiving questions related to the annual university entrance exam. Many of those under suspicion are current teachers. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg House.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N1 northbound in Centurion is slow moving towards Old Johannesburg Road, and the N14 northbound in Pretoria has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck at Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the N2 inbound has a crash at Bunga Avenue, queuing traffic on both sides. Voortrekker Road is slow moving at the N7 Harville Drive, and Sandown Road eastbound is closed toward Wood Drive due to roadwork, so expect delays and diversions. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, let's talk about Royal AM. Yeah.
Well, the court has dismissed an interdict application with costs filed by Royal AM. Royal AM had filed an urgent court interdict to stop the Premier Soccer League Board of Governors from meeting today. According to SABC Sport, the board was set to meet this morning at 11 to deliberate further on the Royal AM matter. However, the virtual meeting had to be adjourned because of the interdict. Just last week, the PSL Board of Governors voted for the expulsion of Royal AM from the league following their failure to honour fixtures, and it's still a developing story, but we'll definitely keep a close eye on it. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns will aim to continue their recent dominance over Al Ahly when the teams meet in the first leg of the CAF Champions League semi-final set for Loftus Versfeld Stadium on Saturday. Sundowns have not lost a game to Al Ahly since 2021, putting together a 7-match unbeaten sequence against the Egyptian heavyweights. Elsewhere, Real Madrid boss Carlo Ancelotti is reportedly set to leave the club after the Copa del Rey final on the 26th of April. Real and Barcelona are fighting it out for the domestic double, with Ancelotti's side sitting 4 points behind Barca in the league with 7 games to play. Now, the pair meet in El Clasico on the 11th of May, but as it's said, the Italian might not be in charge of that game in Barcelona. Meanwhile, there are reports that Jurgen Klopp has already agreed to negotiate with Madrid, and the club believes that he'll bring in some sort of discipline, build character, and come in with great tactical ideas. We'll see it as that story develops. In cricket, Proteas senior batter Rassie van der Dussen has candidly opened up about his future prospects in the national jersey. This is after his latest contract with Cricket South Africa. Van der Dussen, alongside David Miller, has entered into a contract with the national governing body for the 2025-26 season as he begins to wind down his career.
I think it's, in essence, not that much different. I think where I'm in my career, it's obviously at some stage you have to start stepping away and making way for all the talented guys we got coming through. I mean, there's abundance of them in the structure at the moment, especially in the batting department. So I guess this contract is me to sort of oversee that transition period. We have a lot of guys with a lot of experience that's moving on in the years, and I think this next year or two is going to be very important for us to impart our knowledge on the younger guys, the Brevis, the Luandre Pretorias, those types of guys that's coming through, that is going to take the Proteas brand and team forward. So almost in a sense like a bridging time, I think, in the next year or so, and I think that's where my role will be mainly focused on.
Well, the 36-year-old will be available for a specific agreed-upon bilateral tours and ICC events. And according to CSA, he says that he is under no illusion in terms of what his future holds. In athletics, SA 10-kilometer record holder Adrian Wilschot has advised young local athletes to think carefully before accepting scholarship offers from the United States without thorough research. The 26-year-old was scouted as a teenager by South African running legend Zola Bud, who helped both him and his older brother Nadil secure scholarships to study and compete in America.
I mean, honestly, I'm not going to tell anybody to go to the US or not. You know, like if you feel it's the right thing for you to do, just make sure at least to do your research. And like I said, it's not like I'm like the amazing guy or whatever, but I think I could at least help somebody, just give you a little, if you really want to go, like ask me the question, I'll answer for you and kind of point you in the right direction, instead of just going over blindly and then find out there, which is a lot of what South Africa did. I didn't know much when I first went over. I could have been, if I went to the wrong place, I could have been destroyed, you know. But like I said, my brother went ahead 6 months before and he was recruited by Zola Butt, and I followed him 6 months later, Zola Butt. So like we were kind of nurtured. We have like 11 South Africans there from all sports, so we had a little community there, but it doesn't happen everywhere. And therefore I would say, if you are serious about running, I think you can still go to the US. Just make sure you do your research and go to the right school. If you don't, if you doubtful or whatever, just stay at home. I'm sure there's like many places, great coaches you can join and still become very successful, like many others already proved.
I can't help but think about Bayanda Walaza, who opted to stay in the country than rather go abroad.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. And he's doing well for himself. Well, Fande, in golf, the PGA Tour has suspended Wesley Bryan for playing in a Live Golf-backed event 2 weeks ago. The tour has not commented, though Bryan says that he doesn't know how long it will last, and indicated that he would follow the tour's appeals process. Now, Bryan is attending but not competing this week in the Corrales Pantacana Championship in Dominican Republic, where he finished second last year. It is on the schedule opposite the RBC Heritage, which Bryan won back in 2017. He no longer has full tour status and has played in 3 events this year, as recently as March, missing 2 cuts, the exception of a tie for 25th at the Farmers Insurance Open in January.
Before you go, you're done, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I see there's a picture of Carlos Ancelotti. First of all, I'm amazed. I saw some guys with Arsenal tops in the area where I live. Yeah. But you're at the SABC today?
Yes.
I haven't seen anything.
Right
I'm
there.
looking in the wrong places.
You should look right there at the corner there.
I will go and check. I'll check that out just now, but I haven't seen anyway. But here's the important part, that the story, and it's come through across the board, that he is set to leave Real after their Copa del Rey final, which is like their local FA Cup at the end of next week, actually, in fact.
Literally.
So like it's finished and clear, gone. And someone made the point about them saying, you see, Real Madrid, biggest team in the world, they don't mess around. And the last point about that, the front runner to replace him, Jurgen Klopp.
Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp. We'll see if that would actually happen. But a big congratulations to Arsenal fans. We thought that Madrid would turn things around, but no. They just continued with winning ways, and they deserved to move on in the Champions League.
I made the point. The Arsenal Gunners unrealed Madrid. Something like that. Got that. More sport in an hour.
The Blue Diamonds want to shine all the way from kickoff to the final whistle, while the Rockets plan to rock up with a strong winning mentality. This is the Hollywoodbet Super League. Experience the exciting battle between JVWFC and TS Galaxy Queens on Sunday 20 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Markwe, it's the weekend, isn't it? It's the beginning of like a 4-day weekend coming up. So what do you do on the last day of a long weekend? Anyway, Markwe Masilela is the Chief Investment Officer at Markwe Fund Managers. Yeah, local and global markets. Where are we now today?
Not a bad way, to start our long weekend. Good afternoon to you and to the listeners. Ashraf Market started the session expecting a 25 basis point interest rate cut from the European Central Bank, and indeed, they delivered as expected, reflecting uncertainties about the global trade and its impact on the economy. And with a long weekend ahead, investors were reluctant to double down too heavily on the broad-based decline when it comes to risk assets this week. And the dollar is up as traders took some heart from trade talks between US and Japan. And as the dust is starting to settle, there are concerns regarding the stagflationary outlook, that is economic condition where the economy is slowing and there's high unemployment and inflation rates. And investors' focus has been squarely on fast evolving trade policies as markets wait to see if new agreements are reached between the US and its trading partners. Also, China continues to show the US that two can play this game. Beijing is seen as seeking to broaden the trade war, that is to include service industry, travel, financial services, consulting, etc. Remember, US is running a significant surplus with China, and we know that the US economy is more service industry driven more than manufacturing of goods. Oil prices rose to the highest in 2 weeks amid low liquidity ahead of the Easter holidays after the US imposed new sanctions to cap oil exports coming from Iran, elevating supply concerns. We see Brent crude is up 1.4% at 66.80, and profit taking kicked in, and sentiment was also dented by hawkish comments from the US Fed chair. Hence, gold is down 0.9% at 3,312, and platinum is down 0.3% at 962. US markets firmly in the red, but Europe and us were off session lows, with the JSE up 0.2%, and we've been held by our industrials and financials. And the rand just strengthened 0.1% against the US dollar. We are now at 18.78, 24.90 against the pound, and 21.34 against the euro.
Perfect. You have a good, long weekend, Makwe Masilela. Thanks for your time. Absolutely. Right. We're going to pick up some other issues. And I can tell you now what is important is, have you checked out the results of the by-elections yesterday? There were many by-elections, a significant one regarding the MK party in the eThekwini region. We'll talk about that after 5 o'clock.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right. We spoke earlier on about those many of the shops, right, in the Eastern Cape region about, again, being undocumented as stores, right? Here's a comment.
Hey, good afternoon, Ashraf. You've got this Minister of Labour, and you're asking her about all kinds of things about the contraventions, but you don't ask her what happens to the employees who are illegal foreigners. What happens to them? Because she can ask the businesses to correct whatever wrong they're doing, but that part, how do they correct that part of illegal foreigners being employed in their establishments? I don't understand that, and I don't know why you didn't ask her particularly that question.
Okay, point made. In fact, I didn't ask her that question, but she did make the point very clearly that you cannot have people who are undocumented. So, what is there to explain around that? Just think about it. It's been discussed so often. What is there to explain beyond that? The law must take its course then.
Dumela Ashraf, let me earnestly ask corrupt traffic cops to stop taking bribes. If they can listen to me and heed my advice, there will be low fatality rate over this Easter weekend. Let me unreservedly wish them glorious time over this Easter. Anonymous from Brad Fisher. Ta-da!
Okay, got that one there about bribes. I think it's an ongoing story. Here's another comment about the minister.
Ashrat, we are speaking to Tsepo from Togoza. I think Minister for Education from DA, they must fix this country. Because ANC government destroy education, nursing. Understand? Minister of DA, please come and rescue this country, because ANC destroy everything. Everything that it touches turn into ashes. Please rescue this country, Minister of Education. Thank you.
There we are. everything they touch turns to ashes. Let me not comment about that.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Can the minister also look into the issue of teachers teaching at the foundation phase, foundation level, yet those teachers doesn't possess the early childhood development qualification? I've seen quite a number of schools in the public domain whereby you will find that a teacher does not have an early childhood development, and that teacher is teaching grade 1 or what I put.
Well, I mean, she made the point about absolutely formalizing that entire, let's call it an industry. At the moment, it's very much, as she said, I mean, she used the word like, I think, did she say Tani a few times, like an auntie coming to assist. It's got to be formalized. And they're looking at 10,000. They said they've got about 3,000 of these early childhood development centers, 10,000 to come. So there's huge scope, really. There's a need and there's a huge scope for people who want to grow into that industry. We talk about where does the market, where are the gaps? There's the gap.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SFM listeners. But Kharube was supposed to also tell us which budget is she going to spend. And we are made aware that the Department of Education is the one that's receiving a huge chunk and has got serious social programs, your feeding, your scholar transport. She didn't vote for that budget. So how can she just be excited because she didn't vote for the budget? Which money is she gonna spend in supporting the schools? These guys are ralukis.
Well, so what should you have? She must vote for the budget that increases VAT by 2 percentage points. That was Plan A. Remember that? Right. There's further comments. Taxi violence issues.
Good afternoon, Asha, and nice show. I am listening that guest for you there. They knew these people. All these taxi partners, operators, they are the same, and everywhere people gunning down because of the routes. He knows the truth. If he say he doesn't know, he's lying. He's lying to you, really.
Lying. Okay, I wonder. Right, let's. There's more to comment about. So we'll talk about the MK party and that by-election result just now, and loss for the DA, by the way, in that same by-election. But anything else you want to pick up on? Someone said the point we haven't spoken. Well, I said we haven't spoken about Trump for a couple of days. So what else you want to talk about? And the goings on on the African continent too, from Mozambique to Kenya to Burkina Faso, that we chatted about to. Other parts in the West African region as well. Either way, whatever it is you want to get off your chest. I'm also interested in the issue of the trade wars that are ongoing, perhaps globally. It's important. This is the National Pulse.
When using the road this Easter holiday, take extra caution when using dangerous roads. Please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. R61 Mbizana in Eastern Cape, N1 Mkopane in Limpopo, N4 Vosman in Mpumalanga, N4 Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. You can help to reduce road crashes and save lives. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The Toffees want to convert pressure to pleasure by claiming maximum points against the reigning champions.
To put Everton level, he certainly does. No mistake. Beautifully done by Iliman Ndiaye.
But the citizens are not interested in any outcome but victory.
And there's Grealish, and inside 2 minutes, City are in front. And Jack Grealish, his first Premier League.
This is the Premier League. Witness the mouth-watering clash between Everton FC and Manchester City FC on Saturday 19 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Weekend View with Bongiwe Zwane from 6 to 7 a.m.
Has the Democratic Alliance become an unwelcome GNU guest? That is the subject of our Sunday morning discussion. Tabira in Sukukune.
I totally disagree with what Professor Mayer say and Professor Gumede say, to say that the minister has performed well.
And some are saying that maybe you need more money to get a properly skilled prosecutor. Is that where the problem is? And is the NDPP, in your view, someone that can still continue to run this institution?
One, money cannot be the problem where there are challenges that can be resolved without money. There are about 6 senior positions in the NPA that are not filled, and those positions are funded. There is money for those.
Let us be frank and honest about the NPA. The NPA has lost its credibility on many fronts.
Hashtag SAFM Weekend View. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, there's we've been covering the story of the goings on at the Walter Sisulu University Umtata campus for the last few days, and I'm afraid to say that it appears that story is now escalating into something potentially much bigger. I hope I'm wrong. I think that is the case. Let's get an eyewitness report on this issue with eyewitness as in covering the story with Nkululeko Nyembezi, the SABC News reporter in the region. Appreciate your time, Nkululeko. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much to you and the SAFM listeners.
Thank you. So I don't think you're the eyewitness as in absolutely there at that moment in time, but you're certainly aware of what's happened today, right?
Yes, it was very bad this morning because we saw a number of heavily armed security personnel approaching the residences here. Then they got inside, then they opened fire, rubber bullets, and then tear gas to the students that seemed to be reluctant to vacate the premises or the residence. So we are told that plus minus 15 of them got injured. 3 were seriously injured, were taken to hospital, and some were released. But we are also told that the classes were suspended, and some of the students were really reluctant to vacate. So the police are here, security personnel are here. They are heavily armed, of course.
Okay, and in terms of what's the mood there at campus right now?
Well, the situation is very volatile. As I'm speaking to you right now, we're experiencing quite a number of students that are leaving the campus. They are pushing their bags out of the campus because the institution has just decided to cut off all the classes or operations in the institution. So they are leaving the campus, and the police are here to make sure, because I spoke to the regional commissioner here at the Ora Tambo region, General Norman Motishane. He was telling me that they are here to make sure that at least they monitor the situation, to also make sure that there is no contradiction between the security personnel and the students here at the university.
How, and then let's go back to what originally happened regarding, a person being killed on campus, and first saying the news was that it was not a student, then we find out it was a student. What can you tell us about that?
Well, what we know is from the minister now is that this student was confirmed as a student, as a registered student. And then also what you can confirm is that from the police that the person who is alleged to have been responsible for the shooting of these students has been arrested. We got that from the police. That's a story that we're breaking right now. The residence res manager has been arrested according to the police.
Anything else you think we need to know that you'd like to share?
Well, except that the king of Abatembu, who was here, I was just busy interviewing him right now. And then he's saying that he's very, really disappointed about the situation here. He's also calling on the management of this institution and even politicians who are involved in this institution to come together and iron out differences between students and the management, because he feels that these incidents should have not happened if we're proactive to make sure that at least they deal with this situation head on.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate you giving us your time. That's Nkululeko Nyembezi, the SABC News reporter in the Eastern Cape, covering the story today about clashes really between security guards and students at the Walter Sisulu University campus and Umtata campus, in fact. This is the National Pulse.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
So what does your pulse tell you? I certainly want to feel it and get a sense of what you're thinking right now. And there's been a range of comments, unsurprising, around the issue of Omotoso as well.
Hi, Ashraf. This Kaluva lady, she must leave Christianity alone. It's the NPA that failed to prosecute the criminal that calls himself a pastor or a Christian. Yeah, I'm Christian. I don't identify with Omotoso, nor would I ever listen to anything from Omotoso. But let not the failure of the justice system then be ammunition for those who want to actually serve an attack on this religion. She must just fire her shots in the right direction.
Fire the shots in the right direction. I asked about some of the regions on the African continent and any issues you want to bring up there. Here's one about South Sudan.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hi, my brother. I speak here. I'm very much concerned about what is happening in South Sudan. Children are dying there of dehydration because they are moving away from the war zone. If their mothers are dying of hunger, it is very disturbing. The view of South Sudan is very disturbing, and I don't hear anything coming out of the world powerful people to solve the problem of South Sudan. It is very much disturbing, my brother. I don't know. It is very, very, very disturbing. Or maybe it's just because those who are dying there are blacks. I don't hear it. Why the world leaders are so quiet about what is happening in South Sudan?
Well, you know what?
Thank you, my bro.
Thank you for that. The world leaders may be quiet because maybe the African leaders are quiet. It really is up to us to amplify what's going right or what's going wrong. Now, we've certainly covered the issue of South Sudan a few times and Sudan itself in the last few months, in fact. But your point overall is valid. What about the African Union? What about the regions? Where are the political parties from across the board who have an opinion on things? What are they saying as well? Right, Becky, let's get your thoughts in Mpumalanga. Hello.
My brother, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Go for it.
My brother, I'm a little bit worried the way most of the people, they comment in terms of the security, having armed with firearms, some speaking about militarizing the university and so on. When you approach this matter, you have to approach it very carefully and you must be objective. And both sides must be looked at and there must be balance, not imbalances. And one has to be very careful not to be biased when dealing with this issue. We can't shy away with it that even though the students are exercising their constitutional right, but there's somehow where they overstep in whatever that they are doing. You cannot say that security that are there with firearms, the university must be declared a firearm-free zone. We have seen a number of protesting happening in South Africa, and we know how violently it is and what is happening. But one has to encourage that the SRC and the security bodies and the university management has to meet together and find a solution as to how to deal with these issues. Because whenever two elephants are fighting, the grass is going to suffer. And the consequences thereof will be what is happening right now. We don't want to see the repeat of the massacre in Cape Town. We don't want to see people dying, or more especially students confronting the security. But I would say to the management and the police themselves, the management of the police, without blaming one another, let them sit down and look for a possible solution as to how to deal with these issues. Because we cannot, shy away to say that in South Africa we are not safe. And therefore, as we are not safe, the private sectors are giving support to the police in all fronts. But I will urge and appeal to the students that please, if the leaders are listening right now, can you maybe try and engage the students?
Becky, I'm going to have to leave it there.
To calm down.
All right. Thank you for that. I think what you've said, I have a sense that when we get comments from other people just now, many people are going to pick up on what you said and say, you know what, Becky, in Mpumalanga is spot on. that there has to be new ways of looking at this, and there has to be sanity and not just blaming one and the other. So yeah, but something has to happen. This can't be ongoing all of the time, isn't it? 5 o'clock, here's the news headlines with Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Concern over Gauteng taxi violence and Omotoso victims speak out. Good day to you. The Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC Kerebona Diari-Tlhabela has raised concern about the rising number of taxi-related shootings and lack of arrests. She was speaking outside the home of a female taxi operator who was gunned down on Monday. Her murder follows the death of her husband earlier this year, also linked to taxi violence. The MEC has called on law enforcement to step up their efforts.
You hear me also calling upon the Minister of Police, Ntate Mchunu, to say, Ntate, can we rise to the occasion? Can we deal with this issue for what it is? There is criminality in the taxi industry and we need to do something about it. Can the law enforcement and our police rise to the occasion and arrest? At least can we see people being arrested? So it's really sad, it's difficult for all of us, but I'm calling upon to all of us who are against this not to be afraid, to fight side by side with honorable men and women.
5 people have been killed following a head-on collision involving 2 vehicles on the N4 toll road in Mpumalanga. The spokesperson for the Provincial Community Safety and Security Department, Mweti Musi.
It is believed that the inclemental weather may have caused this accident. Motorists traveling towards that direction are advised to consider using alternative route because at this stage the road is still closed. We do not have an idea how long it's going to be closed.
The Economic Development Department in Limpopo has warned liquor traders who don't adhere to trading hours that they'll have penalties imposed on them or have their trading licenses revoked. The department spokesperson, Hitikani Magwete.
There will be penalties in the form of fees that these people will have to pay. I know that SAPS has a function within them to enforce these fees, and that's why we work quite closely with them. But also, from our end, we do issue out warnings.
The Border Management Authorities arrested 5 foreign nationals attempting to smuggle goods from South Africa into Zimbabwe using the Limpopo River. The authorities, Rudzani Mpilo, says the suspects were arrested through the use of drones.
We were, through the drone, able to direct the reaction force on the ground made out of SNDF, border guards and SAPS to go and intercept. And indeed, they managed to intercept. We have just now able to arrest 5 illegal immigrants who were smuggling the goods out of the country, and they will be processed, accordingly.
Victims have spoken out about how their trust and peace was shattered by Timothy Omotoso, who allegedly raped them. The Nigerian pastor was found not guilty for rape and human trafficking by the High Court in Eastern Cape. Despite the ruling, the young women maintain they were violated by Omotoso. One of the victims read out a letter addressed to him.
Timothy, you violated our bodies, our trust, our safety and our peace. You may think you've gotten away with it, but you haven't. Because we are still speaking the truth. We carry the pain every day, but we also carry the strength. This is not our story of being hurt, it's also our story of surviving. You don't get to silence us. We're still not afraid to speak, and no matter what the system has decided, we know what happened, and so do you.
Finally, South Korean police have recommended that about 100 people be charged for selling and receiving questions related to the annual university entrance exams. Many of those under suspicion are teachers. Police say they wrote questions for the exam and then sold them to private tutoring companies before students were due to sit for a test. An individual question could sell for up to $350. Top story of the Gauteng Roads and Transport MEC's raised concern about the rising number of taxi-related shootings and the lack of arrests. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg House.
In your sports this hour, Bosch ruled out of the Proteas women's upcoming ODI. The Sharks being boosted by the return of Etzebeth, and Richards Bay square off with Cape Town City as PSL clubs battle for survival. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Heidelberg has a truck crash before Villiers Road. The road's closed and traffic is being diverted at Dustville Interchange. And Beyers-Naudé Drive westbound in Rand Park Ridge has a crash reported at Easterhout Drive. In KZN, the M4 both ways queuing towards Virginia Airport and the N2 southbound in Amanzimtoti queuing on 20 Hill. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound queuing towards the N7 Jakes Harville Drive and the M3 inbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
Can you hear that? It's the pitter-patter letting you know your roof is leaking. Terrible timing. The sound you were hoping for is the splish-splash of the beach holiday you've been saving up for. But don't let cash flow hold you back. Do both. Apply for a Nedbank personal loan and get our best interest rate with a loan of up to 400,000 Rand. Apply online at nedbank.co.za. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Blue Diamonds want to shine all the way from kickoff to the final whistle, while the Rockets plan to rock up with a strong winning mentality. This is the Hollywoodbet Super League. Experience the exciting battle between JVWFC and TS Galaxy Queens on Sunday 20 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Catch Color Your Plate this Tuesday evening at 7:30.
I want to see family in your meals.
I'm just watching how nervous they are.
The atmosphere is intense.
I'm so overwhelmed today.
I'm panicking right now.
I just made a big mistake.
It looks like we've got a little thief because ingredients are going missing.
It's a me and you thing, okay? Don't tell anybody.
That's Color Your Plate this Tuesday evening at 7:30, only on SABC2.
At Duba Tradeport, we specialize in helping businesses grow through state-of-the-art manufacturing, infrastructure, logistics services, and international trade links. We're an advanced environment for doing business where most ambitious companies gather. If you're seeking progressive opportunities and looking to build mutually beneficial relationships, move to dubatradeport.co.za to see your business grow beyond potential.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about this because I've had a chat with a few people in the last day or two, and you know, you've had what is the guy, Andrea Bocelli? I hope I got that right. I mean, not just one who's just great with his voice, but also sung when Leicester City won their league for the very own time. Anyway, he's been in South Africa in the last few days, right? And the amount of people who've been talking about getting tickets for that event, right? And then I say that because the American-Palestinian speaker Omar Suleiman is in South Africa, or will be in South Africa, I think, Saturday, for the next 3-4 days, talking about, you know, himself and his vision and what's happening between the USA and Palestine and other things too, right? And again, there's lots of people up talking about, have you got tickets to the Omar Suleiman events, right? Joburg, Cape Town, and Durban. And then we know there's the Chiefs-Pirates game coming up soon as well. And I've already heard people talking about that too. You know, I'm talking about the Nedbank Cup final. Like, have you got tickets to that event? So the reason I'm asking that question is, how often does it happen where you have an event, and it could be anything, party political, it could be religious, it could be sport, it could be a business event, where you just want to go, and therefore in your circle, all you can talk about is like, do you have your tickets? The last time there was that sort of frenzy was during the 2010 World Cup. Give me your thoughts about that. Certainly, that's my point. Let's hear yours, right? So, has that happened to you? I want to know. I'll tell you what, who certainly got their tickets right now, and like it or not, they have it, is the MK Party. They've won a significant ward in the eThekwini municipality. I'm talking about Ward 110. What's also significant is the ward was held by the DA. So one just thinks about this, the remarkable crossover that's taken place in that ward. Let's try, there's two takes to that. We'll chat to the ANC later on because they are effectively crying foul regarding the same ward. But for now, Inhlamulo Ndlela with me, the MK Party spokesperson. Inhlamulo, it's been a while. Good chatting to you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, good evening, should we say, Ashraf. Good evening to your listeners.
Thank you so much. Right. You know, I mean, you have elections, you have by-elections, and some are more significant than others, right? But you always try and look at context in terms of what does this mean? So what does this mean for the MK Party winning a ward? I think, by 22 votes, but the swing was dramatic because it wasn't votes taken from the ANC or from the EFF. It was taken from the ward held by the DA.
No, this is a significant win. It's certainly a landmark in all the by-elections win for us that we've participated in. As you said, it was a ward that was held by the DA. We've now taken over that. We worked the ground extremely well in garnering the vote and the support. But it's a clear demonstration that people are tired of the non-performing DA, and they see Mkhonto Sizwe as the solution to addressing the challenges that they are faced with, the infrastructure issues of the Department of Water as well. So there's a number of issues that they've not delivered on, and so there's a number of issues that they've raised with us, and we went there with parliamentarians, with the national leadership, and we garnered their support and demonstrated to them that we're the only solution to solving their problems.
But do you think that was the case, that they simply your party won because others were tired of the DA, then decided to vote for you? Because, I mean, normally, and I think this happens across the board, is, if you have a certain slant, a political slant, you sort of go in stages from one to the other. You're hardly ever going to jump from one extreme to the other.
Well, look, that's Mkhonto Sizwe for you as a party. We speak to the people listen to what we're saying, they love what we're saying, they trust us, and that's a clear demonstration of the way that they voted. People went out and voted in their numbers, and the people have spoken. They chose Mkhonto Sizwe.
I would think often, particularly at wards level, in a by-election, the choice of which party gets the vote is very, very centered around who the leader of that party is in that region. That means the ward councillor. So tell me about that.
And that's exactly that. I mean, you see, when it goes to issues of by-elections and the candidates, it needs to be a ground-up approach. It has to be the community that identify whom they believe are the best suited leader or candidate is. In this case, the community believed that the Mkhonto Sizwe councillor, in this case, Councillor Biela, was the best suited leader, and he's obviously a member of Mkhonto Sizwe. And they voted for him because he's a trusted member of the community as well. He's a leader within Mkhonto Sizwe at the regions. And by virtue of that, he's also participates in the CPF, in the communities, and he's the best candidate for them within the community as a leader. And that's the principle that we follow, that candidates ought to be identified by the community and not a top-down approach where we identify candidates for the community, because that's where then in that case you never get such astounding results.
All right. I mean, I think your reasons may be compelling in terms of why they went for Councillor Biela, but does that mean therefore it's your bottom-up approach is less about the policies of a party, in this case the MK Party, but certainly they see someone who is a leader in that region, not a leader anywhere else, but definitely a leader in that region that they trust, and that's your words, and therefore that person's going to get the vote no matter which party the person stood for?
Ashraf, we can't water down the impact of Mkhonto Sizwe by virtue of saying it's only because of the leader. People believe in Mkhonto Sizwe. I mean, the DA had their own candidate there. They have their own policies. You could see how close the margin is. But the mere fact that those people on the ground, that community voted for Mkhonto Sizwe is also because of Mkhonto Sizwe. So you can't divorce the candidate in this case from the party. The people love Mkhonto Sizwe. We were there. They were participating. And they listened to, because we understand their challenges, and they listened to how we would solve them, and they trust us that we'll solve them accordingly.
All right. So the vote split was
accordingly in the metro.
Okay, 22 votes made the difference between the MK party and the DA, but the ANC itself, I mean, they fell well short. I think something like 15%, right? And the EFF, not even 1%, right? Let's talk about this because the ANC themselves are effectively crying foul. They're saying there were a series of irregularities in the voting, and that is what's cost them that particular election. What do you make of that?
Well, firstly, I'll say they should have cried foul, complained about our votes being rigged and being stolen at the time of the national elections. But what can we say? It is the ANC after all. They are more than welcome to go and obviously complain. It's their right. And we're not going to entertain anything else besides saying that we have now won that ward. We're going to be represented in Tegrini. And we just need to focus on delivering for our community and representing them accordingly.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough. But just in your experience, can you tell us, in terms of your understanding, that whether everything was okay? Because we will speak to the ANC just now.
There's one thing I can tell you. Mkhonto Wesizwe leadership and our members on the ground, we don't rig people. We're principled. Instead, we are victims of such processes. And by virtue of that, we're totally against such activities. We believe that everything went accordingly, fairly. And if the DA, I mean, which is actually just lost by 22 seats compared to the ANC. I mean, if they're not complaining and they're not raising these issues, then the ANC is just merely playing politics here, and we're not interested in politicking. We're looking at service delivery, and we're focusing on ensuring that our community is represented in Tegrini. And also, let's not forget, this is Mkhonto Wesizwe's first metro seat.
Yeah, that's the other part that's interesting. Yeah,
which is a huge win for us, and it's certainly, that's why I say it's a landmark victory. So we're not perturbed about the ANC going and raising this with whichever platform they felt that they should raise it with, and we're quite comfortable that everything was fair and within the law.
Okay, I'm looking at a picture that was a tweet from Muzi Ngubani saying, with a picture of a poster, in fact, with the mobile board from the DA saying the DA is the only party big enough to stop MK in Ward 110, 110. Clearly, that didn't happen, so we know that now. But this is the point I want to ask you, therefore. There's been many by-elections that were yesterday, not just the one you won. Some of them you didn't win, right? And there's been others in the last few weeks as well. Where's the trajectory of your party taking you? Because not every one of them you've won. In fact, many of them you've also dropped, right? What are your thoughts about where the party is now, keeping in mind that very quickly we'll have our eyes on that local election coming up in a year's time? Well, less than a year now.
Well, I think the first point to make is that whenever the DA says stop MK, that's free marketing for us because they put MK on every single billboard that they put up. So, we're more than happy to get free marketing in that case. And they should continue doing that. We'll continue winning wards. When it comes to the by-elections that we participated in, those that we've lost, well, we've lost. We haven't raised any issues of concern. Even though there could be some issues that we have identified. But what we do is we want to focus on strengthening our machinery, strengthening the program, and we learn as we go. And remember, we're always in campaign mode because we're campaigning, one, to win the 2026 local government elections, and most importantly, taking the country back, because Mkhonto Wesizwe is going to govern this country. Whether any party likes it or not, Mkhonto Wesizwe will govern this country. Mkhonto Wesizwe will lead and will govern in local government elections next year. We'll win a lot of metros. There's no doubt about that. So look at this as really these engagements and these ward voting is more so a litmus test for our broader program. And it is certainly yielding the results that we want to see.
All right, lots of claims made by you. We will sort of keep all those sound bites for the day after that local government election and see just how far you are on that one day.
I'll tell you what, leading up to 2024 elections, people said there were claims. Look at us now. We're the official opposition, and we've also just won based on this interview, a very significant ward against the DA.
Okay.
So you watch this space.
All right, Ntlamulo Ndlela, the MK party spokesperson. That last point is true, isn't it? I think the point about what the DA said when it was the DA or the Nats in the last in those previous elections, and they made the point about vote to keep the ANC out or vote to keep the Swar Ghafar out. Inevitably, it didn't work. It created amazing publicity for them to say, well, what are they all about? So in this case here, has the DA inadvertently, quite unintentionally, ensured that the MK party becomes the very center of conversation in that election, in that region, as per the by-election yesterday. In terms of going forward, I wonder what this tells you about where the different political parties are going. 14% ANC, 0 and a bit, less than 1% for the EFF. We'll talk to the ANC after this.
Spar Rewards brings you 5 days of even more now on, with up to 50% off. Get Spar Long Life Milk 6-pack, buy any 2 for 170 Rand and save 30 Rand. Or 1 litre Spar 100% fruit juice, buy any 2 for 32 Rand and save 32 Rand. Prices valid from 17 to 21 April while stocks last. Spar Rewards. Sign up for more.
Football intelligence will be tested between the students, University of Johannesburg and Tshwane University of Technology. They are both eager to go an extra mile for victory. This is the Hollywoodbet Super League. Witness the Varsity Derby, UJ Ladies versus TUT Ladies on Sunday 20 April at 11:30 a.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Meet Maria. Meet her family, the Ramirez. One wrong step and they will have you swimming with the fishes. Meet Amadeo, a trained lawyer and member of the rival business clan, the Mateus. The two fall in love and Maria's dreams of a happily ever after change when Madeo is murdered at their wedding. Their daughter, Jo, despises her mother's humble beginnings and will do anything to steal all of Maria's fortune. This is the world of Sweet Diva. Airs weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
April is Freedom Month, a time to reflect, remember, and celebrate. At SAFM, we honor the journey of our nation and the resilience of its people. United in the defense of our freedom and democracy, we salute every voice that keeps the spirit of liberation alive. Stay tuned to SAFM, where the nation comes together. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, now we now know that, by the way, that conversation with the MK spokesperson who is up as a podcast, including if you've tuned in late, never tune in late, but if you have, there's the conversation I had with the Minister of Basic Education just to start off the show from like 5 past 10 past 3 up to 3:30. Listen to that as a podcast, and I think it's well worth you having a conversation about it over supper and debating the points she made about the priorities around basic education. Now, I wonder what would the ANC be talking about over supper, because we now know that not only have they made allegations of irregularities in that region, the Ward 110, they've taken it a step further in terms of they've actually put through a formal, call it a protest, to their claims that in fact there was massive irregularities around it. So they formed this they've lost this formal complaint, right? Let's find out more about it with Mike Mabuya Kulu, who's the ANC's task team coordinator in that region in KwaZulu-Natal. Mike, appreciate your time as always. You're on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. Good afternoon, good to you. Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your listeners.
All right, let's get to the nub of the issue about the formal appeal that you've lodged, the complaint rather, to the IEC of illegal voter registrations. Tell me more about it. What do you see that the IEC did not pick up?
Well, first and foremost, Ashraf, I think let me give the context. The ANC has been fighting by-elections in KwaZulu-Natal, and we accept the democratic outcome. And where we have lost, we have never actually come up with anything other than accepting the democratic outcome. We have lost in Ward 2 in Richmond. We did not have an issue. We have lost in Ward 28 in Guatuguza. We have not an issue. What we are raising this time around is based on the evidence that we are having people who registered, at least 135 people registered in supposedly one household. It's a glaring thing, and supposedly another group of people registered in a flat. All we are asking for is that the IEC should actually investigate this matter, because we want to trust the IEC, and we do trust the IEC, that the IEC runs a credible election in this country, which is free and fair. But when we therefore get to be given information, all we are asking the IEC to do is to go and investigate that, because we want to trust the IEC and continue to put our trust in the credibility of the outcomes of the election in this country.
Okay, so I mean, you've got there, if I'm looking at your statement, 135 individuals registered all at the same address, this one-bedroom flat, and then you made the point about the 79 and then 89 are registered at a non-existent address. Right, now I hear that. How did you get to find out about this? What happened?
Well, I think it is normal that, look, the first thing we must accept ourselves is that we could not be able to find this before the closing of the voters' roll. And in the process leading up to, because we've been doing a door-to-door campaign, we wanted to reach each and every voter. And we wanted to go to these so-called premises that had got so many voters. And that is when we became surprised that all of this, therefore, in our view, tended to be people who had manipulated the process.
Okay, so you've now registered this formal complaint to the IEC, and they, of course, due processes will follow. I get that, right? Now, collectively, these numbers you talk about, they like something in the 250 odd region between those three complaints. How does that account for the fact that you would perform so dismally in this election?
Well, let's put the issue in context. Those who have actually been analyzing this, they will tell you that the ANC grew 5% this time right than what we have actually received in the last election. We accept that we did not win, so it's not about us actually being bitter losers. We are accepting the democratic outcome. And if our people vote the way they want to vote, it is democracy at play, and the ANC is for democracy. So we have no issue about that. But we must have an issue that if the credibility of the voters' roll is borne by facts, I think all of us have a duty to actually say to the IEC, look at this, and how do we prevent the manipulation to this extent? Because we are not just talking about smaller numbers of 2, 4, 5, or 6 people. We're talking about huge numbers. And if you can see, the party that has won here has won with a poll to 22 numbers. So if you look between the party that has won and that became second, 22. So we just want to be ensuring that the numbers themselves tally up. So we just want credibility. The essence of it is not about to say we don't accept the result. It's about the IEC then looking at the credibility. If these numbers are correct, and something must then be said, how did this come about?
Well, I mean, that's a fair comment. So, at 22, it just needs, 10 or I think 11 or 12 people have voted for another party to have changed the result completely. But interestingly enough, and this is important, I chatted to the spokesperson of the MK party earlier. And of course, naturally, he's going to say, bring on your complaints if you have them. I'm referring to Inhlamulo Ndlela. But he made the point that the DA that finished second, that won the award previously, they have not complained.
Well, it doesn't have to be the party. Remember, this is a democratic participation. If the DA has not been able to be aware of what we have come to be aware of, well, how would they complain? I'm not going to speak for the DA because I'm not a spokesperson of the DA. I'm speaking for the ANC. We're saying, as the ANC, when we actually saw that we have got so many people that were registered in these single premises, it was natural our interest to go and canvass in those people because these were huge numbers. And alas, when we come to there, this doesn't exist. And the question is that the IEC must investigate, and that is the operative thing here. I don't think we want to play such shows. The issue is about, are these people registered in these one addresses? Is it correct? Do they exist? If they don't exist, how did it come about? Because these are so big numbers.
Well, fair enough. Would you then say, and let's leave it at that for the IEC to do the investigations, that the beneficiary of these irregularities is the MK party, keeping in mind that they were nowhere. I mean, they were not existent in previous elections around this time. So they went straight to the top and picked up most of the votes from the DA. And to think that the trend would shift from one party on one extreme to another is normally not the norm in any election, isn't it?
Well, we're not going to be speculating either or. What we are simply saying, the issue is that voters are allowed to be able to vote the way they want to vote. And the ANC doesn't have any problem with that because that is the essence of democracy. The issue is just one. Are there people who may have got fraudulently registered themselves in non-existing addresses, or where they actually used a particular address, one address, fraudulently? Because if that is the case, then it talks about the legitimacy of the electoral outcome. And that is the issue.
Fine, let's leave it at that. It's Thursday afternoon. It's the long weekend starting. I'm sure that issue will be addressed sometime next week or even beyond that. Thank you for your time. And that's referring effectively to the position of the African National Congress, where they are Mike Mabuya Kulu, the ANC's task team coordinator in KwaZulu-Natal. What do you make of that? Do you have any thoughts on that? Remember, we'll take calls, a whole range of them from around 5:45 onwards. So looking forward to engaging with you here on the National Pulse.
A look now at the news headlines. Police have confirmed the arrest of a suspect in connection with a shooting incident at Walter Sisulu University. The Gauteng Roads and Transport MECs raised concern about the rising number of taxi-related shootings, and senior Israeli politicians have called for attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities. A full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Parktown slow moving towards the Houghton Drive exit. The N3 southbound in Germiston is slow moving towards Geldenhuys interchange, and the N3 southbound in Alexandra has a crash reported near London Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a crash before Joyner Road, the N2 northbound a stationary vehicle near Sibaya Drive, and the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is slow moving between Siloris Pass and Grabo. The N2 outbound is queuing towards Muway, and the M5 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Duming Khapele.
Right, Jimmy, you've got some big cricket news.
Yeah, batting all-rounder Annika Bosch has been ruled out of the Proteas women's upcoming one-day international tri-series against Sri Lanka and India due to illness. The 31-year-old has been replaced by Western Province batter Lara Goodall in the 15-player squad as a precaution. Now, the team will depart for Colombo from OR Tambo International Airport on Tuesday, and the Proteas women will play their opening match against India on the 29th of April at the R. Primadasa International Cricket Stadium from 6:30 in the morning. In rugby, the Sharks have been boosted by the return of Eben Etzebeth, who will lead the side for tomorrow's URC clash against Edinburgh in the Scottish capital. It was already confirmed this week that Etzebeth is back in the mix after he was named in the squad that is currently on the URC tour, but being back on the team sheet is definitely a great boost for the side. Lukhanyo Am joins Etzebeth in the starting team along with Apalele Fassi. Then in football, Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Jaden Adams says that he's ready for what's the biggest game of his career thus far as he looks to help the club secure a second star this season. Mamelodi Sundowns will aim to continue their recent dominance over Al Ahly when the teams meet in the first leg of the CAF Champions League semi-final set for Loftus Versfeld Stadium on Saturday.
I think this is the biggest one for me. I'm very excited, and especially because it's a CAF game. The club wants to win trophies. We want to get another star. So, yeah, we're going to work on it.
Still staying with football, the court has dismissed an interdict application with costs filed by Royal AM. Royal AM had filed an urgent court interdict to stop Premier Soccer League Board of Governors from meeting today. And according to SABC Sport, the board was set to meet this morning at 11 to deliberate further on the Royal AM matter. However, the virtual meeting had to be adjourned because of the interdict. Just last week, the PSL Board of Governors voted for the expulsion of Royal AM from the league following their failure to honour fixtures. It's still a developing story. But if you do remember, Ashraf, when we spoke to the lawyer just explaining this whole situation with Royal AM, I did ask, can Royal fight this? And he did say they don't really have a leg.
They don't have a case.
They don't have a case at all. So they're just trying to, is it like the last kicks off a dying horse?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe. In fact, there's a voice note on Royal. Let's see. If Keys has just reminded me. Let's see if we can play that. If we can play that right away.
Hello, Ashraf. A question to me. Now that Royal AM has been expelled from the PSL, what happens to the directors? Can they own another soccer team? Are they welcome at the stadium? You know, can they attend other matches? Can they talk to other players? That kind of stuff. What happened to Andy Lempisani? Can he join another team? Can he maybe become a player for another team?
Okay, got that. That came up in a conversation you had with the legal brain the other day.
Yeah, it did. Basically, it says that the case is against Royal AM, not against Mamkhize. So if Mamkhize decides to buy another club elsewhere, she can still go buy the club. However, it's up to the discretion of the Board of Governors of PSL to decide if they're going to allow her to compete in the PSL with a new club or not. I'm assuming they will allow her also to attend games. Why not?
Yeah.
But the last time I heard with Andy Lempisani, he did say he might just go back to his music career.
Okay, stringing along. But I mean, the bottom line to this one is that they're not prevented from being on the board or running other clubs.
Yeah,
if they choose to.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be in the PSL though. There's a lot of process that they'll still have to follow to get back into the PSL. But elsewhere, Real Madrid boss Carlo Ancelotti is reportedly set to leave the club after the Copa del Rey final on the 26th of April. Real and Barcelona are fighting it out for the domestic double, with Ancelotti's side sitting 4 points behind Barca in the league with 7 games to play. Now the pair meet in El Clasico on the 11th of May, with the Italian is not expected to be in charge of that game in Barcelona. And as I did report earlier on, that there's rumors that Jurgen Klopp has agreed to negotiate with Madrid, and we'll see how that one unfolds. However, there's a Betway Premiership clash to look forward to today. Richards Bay taking on Cape Town City at the Kings Welithini Stadium in Umlazi tonight in what will be a potential tiebreaker in their relegation scrap. And while Orlando Pirates and Sundowns have their focus fully on continental football, both these teams are currently on 24 points each, and any result that comes out of their clash will have direct implication in their relegation battle, as only 3 points separate them from 11th place Magezi FC. And with that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I will be back a bit later on Top Sport from 7 till 8 p.m.
And by the way, if it was yesterday, our Temba, Lamini would have said, come on, talk about Arsenal. There's Man United playing tonight. I know they're playing in the Spaza League. It's not the Champions League, it's the Europa League.
Of course.
But it is the Europa League quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And if they win, they're in the semi-finals.
Yes, they will be in the semi-finals.
And I haven't seen a single person with a Man United top today. Just thought I'll tell you.
Are you surprised?
No. Okay, more sports. You better say goodbye. Yeah.
All right, with that said,
have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Football intelligence will be tested between the students, University of Johannesburg and Tshwane University of Technology. They are both eager to go an extra mile for victory. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Witness the Varsity Derby, UJ Ladies versus TUT Ladies on Sunday 20 April at 11:30 a.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to those facts and figures. So when I spoke to Markway, I said, hey, come on, it's the weekend. Jimmy, the same applies to you. What do you do on the weekend? You've got a story about the Middle East and South Africa. Tell me about that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, we're going to be in conversation with the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Minister Dean McPherson. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is looking to establish a new office in the Middle East. They are still looking to see which country, particularly in the Middle East, but the aim of this hopefully will be to unlock more investment into South African infrastructure projects and into South Africa in general. So I've got a conversation with the Minister a little later on to try and understand that and understand the objectives of this new office or this new strategy to attract investment from the Middle East. Then we've also got a conversation with the team at Verto around the cross-border payments for SMEs. Small businesses often deal with international transactions, and when you're looking to set up a small business or when you're looking to deal with suppliers that sit outside the country, you step into the realm of the central bank and what is known as exchange control. And we're going to take a look at that from a business perspective, all the things you need to know about cross-border transactions as a small business. And then we've got a conversation with the team at Standard Bank taking a look at payment solutions ahead of the Easter weekend. This is in line with, obviously, the offerings that they have as well from a solutions perspective, whether it is individual solutions or solutions for businesses as well. And then because it is Thursday, we're going to wrap it up with a SME. We're going to be speaking to the founder of a luxury luggage company called Tandana. It was a company founded in KZN. We're going to speak to the company's founder and get a sense of all of the goods that they make and how people can get access to them. Quick look at the website. I had a look at the website a little earlier on, and there are lots of luxury leather bags on the site. They are canvas bags, so very different types of materials, all locally made, it seems, and we're going to get a sense of that from the company's founder, Carla Ashton. She's going to join me on the show a little later on. Before we get to all of that, the markets are seemingly getting ready to settle into the weekend. South African markets will, of course, not be trading tomorrow and will not be trading on Monday. Trading will resume on Tuesday. They did close out the week in, effectively closing out the week in negative territory. Resources down 2.6% on the local front, but financials and industrials up 0.4% in each case. In the case of financials, almost 0.5% there. The all share down 0.25%. The top 40 down 0.33% for the day's trade. When we look at international markets, all of the Asian markets were in the green. The Hang Seng and the Nikkei, the biggest gainers, more than 1% in the green there. The Shanghai index was flat, up about 7 basis points. European markets were all in the red, interestingly enough, with the biggest loser being the CAC 40 in France, down 0.2%. US markets at the moment are ever so slightly in the green. The Nasdaq was in the red last week, but at the moment slightly in the green, about 3 basis points up. The S&P up about 0.33%. We'll see how those markets trade later into the evening. A quick look at commodities. The oil price, $66.77 a barrel, back towards or inching towards that $70 a barrel level. We don't really like that, but not much we can do about it. Platinum pricing $970 a fine ounce, palladium $960. Gold price just below $3,300 at $3,298 a fine ounce. Good news on the rand front. $1 US will cost you 18 rand and 79 cents. €1 21 rand and 36 cents. 1 British pound 24 rand 91 cents. 1 Australian dollar just under 12 rand 11 rand and 99 cents. 1 Bitcoin costs you $84,500 a coin, or in rand terms 1.58 million rand. So we're going to be looking at these movements a little later on when we come back. Some of the positive movements that we've been seeing throughout the week and throughout the day. We're going to wrap up the mid-month and see where we end up going into the Easter weekend. Coming out of the Easter weekend, we'll see what we look forward to. I've got a conversation with Terence Hove on markets tonight, but we'll have that conversation when we come back a little later on at 6 o'clock. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Perfect. And you enjoy your, I have to say, you have to enjoy your weekend. And I'm going to be away for about 4 or 5 days. So it's like next week. I'll see you next week. And I'm sure you're going to say the same thing, Jimmy. You have a magic weekend. Let's get your thoughts. I want to get a sense of what your pulse tells you right after this.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Ryan, there's lots of people commenting about many issues, predictably, and you can keep it going even now. And being up, it's almost, public holiday imminent. It's possible someone driving around the country could be listening to the show for the very first time. So just to tell you, my name's Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse, which we do every day, 3 to 6. And if you're listening for the very, very first time, come on, call in live. I'd love to give you a shout out wherever you may be in the country. To call in, it's 086 000 2032. But then the WhatsApps, which you know already, 0614 104 107, text or voice notes. Right, there's been lots of comment about the conversations around the MK party and the ANC.
Hi, Ashraf. Errol from Durban. You know, the controversies with the MK party is really only popular in Natal, in KZN. It doesn't shape up anywhere else. I think except in the Northwest, where it won one or two seats. But in the election last year, the DA actually took a seat that was previously held by the MK. So, yeah, Errol, Durban.
Well, lots of big swings are taking place in those regions. What it does tell you, there's no consistency. There's lots of volatility, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. How the mighty have fallen. Hey, it's a shame. It's so sad. It's so sad that the mighty ANC now have resorted to courts when they lose. It's gonna be bad next year. I was there. We know each other. The people who are voting at 110. We saw the people are there. The people that are registered. So the ANC is just playing politics. Yeah, that's it. Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's BK from Durban.
Okay, BK. Well, just playing politics, but I mean, if they feel they got a case, they're entitled to. In fact, the MK did the same thing during the national election too, isn't it?
Afternoon, Ashraf, together with the listeners. This is Ngabsi Wasetipala. I've listened to both ANC and IFP, and MK party, and I think investigation in this case is a need, especially considering the fact that previously we were told that there are people who are transported to other places to vote. So that address now, they must investigate it. Thank you.
Tulani in KZN, hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
Yeah, good talking to you. Go for it, Tulani. Let's get your thoughts on the by-election.
Yeah. Well, it's just one case in many. And I think it is not accurate to try to extrapolate the result of eThekwini 110 ward as a phenomenon that is going to be cutting across. Well, they have a reason to celebrate, but the victory was very marginal, 25 votes or less than that. And I don't think we should be so much celebrating, but they should be worried about the trend that the wave at which it started in 29 May 2024 is no longer the same now.
Well, I mean, I hear you, and I think you may be right, but, the reaction, the reason why people extrapolate, and even I do, especially now, because it's not election time, it's by-election time. So you look for pointers that emerge and see how we can reflect on those pointers and learn from them in terms of where parties are going and where trends are going. They're not always accurate because sometimes at national level it could be a different story completely. But at the moment, that's all we have, isn't it? So thanks for that call, Tulani. Right. In fact, let me take more calls from you, and especially those first-time callers, but even the regulars and the WhatsApp comments will do right after this.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
Is there a particular strategy that the US president is applying in the imposition of these tariffs? And most importantly, what are the implications of it for us? What is it really telling us about where we might be headed to in the future?
The idea underlying these tariffs are that, according to Trump, the United States is running large trade deficits with so many other countries. He's hoping that by imposing big tariffs, he will be able to restore some sort of balance and revitalize the U.S. manufacturing sector.
Dr. Azar Jamin, who is a director and chief economist at Econometrics.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Well, there you are. So many shows to listen to on SAFM, and Kathy's just been one of them. Please listen out, 9 to 12 every single day, right? Okay, here's another comment about students.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hope you're well. You know what? I think this whole thing with the student, it was bound to happen. Not saying that I'm happy that it did, but it was bound to happen because students get out of hand. They have no idea. There's no self-control. We need to find out exactly what it is that these students were rioting about. I've seen student reses, and students destroy reses. So if the problem is with the inside of the res and conditions and stuff, students need to keep those things clean themselves, like any landlord-tenant relationship. Mark from Cape Town.
Okay, Mark's made his point. Do you think that's true, that that's what students do? They destroy?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The situation with ANC is very sad. I think they must face reality and accept that people no longer want ANC. Yeah, they must get used to losing because the next elections, they will be losing more. So what are they going to do? They will always going to run to the courts because losing is going to be their thing now.
They must get used to losing. Oh, my goodness.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Kimarumo Mahike. Why is the ANC complaining that somebody has stolen the votes and what? They know they are not doing anything for the people there. I just wish 2026 comes. I mean Mahike here. I want them out. I don't want them to get 42%, 2026 and 2029. I wish they get out completely. They don't care about the people. That's my wish. Marumo Mahike.
Thanks for that, Marumo. Do you always wish that way, or has that changed now? Meaning, did you support the ANC before? I'll tell you what, whichever way you want to spin this thing, the ANC does have I won't call it an existential crisis, but they were the party that's led the country in since 30-odd years, right? It's a huge shift even now, and it's very important that they find a way to strategize, to hold on to what they've got, and to build on from that, and not jettison even more votes.
Ashraf, yeah, I hear that man of MK. Then those people who have voted for MK, when they protest, they must protest at the premises of the MK. They mustn't took their protest to ANC or DA. No, they must protest to the premises of Umkhonto when they protest and leave the ANC alone. I think Peter and Kruger.
Now, Peter's not going to do that. I mean, they did the right thing. They got a problem. They must take it to the IEC. Why would they protest with the MK party, for example, or any other party?
Ashraf, when the EFF came on, it also had large support of Joe van Durban, by the way, and then people voted it on hope. And of course all the rhetoric and populism from Mr. Malema, when they realized it couldn't deliver, it was no better than the ANC in actual performance, slowly waned. Similarly, I'd like to know all of the large, the big wigs and many of the even small wigs in the MKP are all ex-ANC in one form or the other. They couldn't deliver when they had outright majority and control when they were part of the ANC. They were in no small part cause of the problems. Some of the diminishing all the structures to leave us in the problems. Now, how are they possibly going to do any better when they really have to perform and deliver? Promises mean nothing.
Well, thanks for that, Joe. But I mean, you just bring up an old, adage, an old story, which is, being a party in opposition is one thing. Being a party that leads is another story completely. And there's a sense that we don't know what they're going to do. And yes, I think a lot of these members come from the ANC. And you can't deny that, yes, some may argue about the issue of Jacob Zuma to say he did nothing wrong, he was framed, but there's lots of evidence that he's done wrong. And on other issues, and many of the members that make up the MK party even now. So the question is, yes, if you are supportive of the MK party right now, what did you think about those individuals and their individual track record when they were part of the African National Congress? I mean, that should give you a pointer of what to expect for the future, isn't it?
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Johnson here in Bombela. It's quite funny how people, same callers, will call and complain that the NPA is captured, the NPA is doing this and this, it is corrupt, they are actually incompetent when they are chasing other people. But when the NPA is after Jacob Zuma is busy with the prosecution of Umsholos. The NPA is doing a good job. Wow, South African. I listen to some callers who will complain about the NPA, but when it's after Zuma, it's doing a great job.
Well, I don't think anybody's denying that they've made a huge impact. The question is what happens next to them, isn't it?
You see, these guys who are raising the issue that DA didn't vote for the budget, which budget are they going to use? It's neither here nor there. They are going to use the South African budget, South African money, not for those who voted for it. The same way that the president of the country, the ruling party, not everybody voted for it, but it becomes a government. And the president becomes the president of everybody, even those who didn't vote for them. So it is neither here nor there. Even the chairperson of the SCOPA or anybody else, even those who didn't vote for it, will still manage and monitor the budget. So the ANC guys are just bitter. Where the lady is good, we must give knowledge and acknowledge that she is indeed. I'm an ANC member, but I'm telling you, she's like a man on fire, and she's very articulate on what she can do. We must acknowledge competency when we see one, not because it's of this party. After all, ANC collapsed this country because of patronage. Gore.
Thanks for that, Gore. Well, I think you're right. You can't expect. He's referring to Siviwe Garuba, who's the Minister of Basic Education, the DA Minister of Basic Education, making the point that, she can't be expected to fix the budget. So when we put questions to say, what are you going to do about the budget? I mean, she can't. It happens at another level. On the other hand, she can only do what she can do, isn't it? And that's what it is up to now. But she certainly came through very, very clear about where the problems are. And if you have missed that interview, listen to the podcast, go to safm.coza. You'll find it on the podcast and the National Pulse, but we also tweeted it out. So if you go to the X or Twitter, just find it under SAFM Radio. I've shared it as well, so you'll find it too. Right, here's another.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just listening to our lovely show again. Ashraf, can I make a suggestion? Let's do a day where we could only phone in and say positive things about South Africa, because I found that the majority of the comments in that, I know there's a lot going on, I get that, and I do understand that we have many, many challenges, but surely we can find nice things to say as well and positive things. So maybe just take an hour and say, well, today's positive hour or something. I really would have loved that, to hear what people have got to say about something positive for South Africa. All right, have a lovely weekend, everyone, and blessed Easter for those who are celebrating.
Thank you. That's nice. Well, I'll tell you what, so you've been critical about the fact that we don't say enough positive things, and maybe we should, and you are complaining about it. But I get your point. I'm just teasing. I don't know. Let me have a chat with Keys and Temba about it. I'll tell you what I probably want to do is, especially around the time of April 27th, right, which is Freedom Day, I'm very keen maybe to do that on that day. Don't go back and make the comparisons. What was it like before? Like Freedom Day, it's not just Freedom Day, 27th of April, 94, but this is what we have. So let's hold on to what's absolutely magical about our country right now. So maybe that's a day to look forward to, and I hope you listen in then.
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores here from the beautiful Western Cape. Ashraf, if there's one minister who lives up to her name, then it's Mamaloka Kubai. She is saying goodbye to each and every corrupt official when it comes to the Justice Department. Well done. Yeah, and I think in Afrikaans there's a saying that Zelle is always making the ANC the Yallen. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
Okay, there we are. Played that last one instead of, so from a goodbye to goodbye. You've made your point about what she does, the minister, and it's time for us to say goodbye today. So it's a long weekend. I will take a good few days off, and I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Do drive safe and be safe in all things that you do. Honestly, we need to stay alive to be able to contribute to the country, to build us into where we are, to a champion nation. Now, that's positive, isn't it? Let's get the news. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg.